Are we live?
We're live.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. So interesting day, interesting window. Let's see how we're doing. How is everyone doing?
Bro, I'm calm. I think
I'm very calm.
there's a lot of just like we'll probably need like a therapy session because there's a lot of people freaking out. But
Yep.
and I think like there's a lot of people that believe their profile of player was coming, and I don't think has come, and it's got them down a little bit. So I'm happy to contextualize a lot of the stuff that people seem to think that we've lost and analyze what teams got better, what got weaker, which I think has also been overblown. But yeah, I think we all just need a therapy session because I mean, like even you, mate, like you look down, but for me, I'm totally fine that we haven't made a short-term decision that will cost us in the future.
I'm just. You know what it is? I'm just tired. I'm very tired. I'm very tired of people just like. I'm gonna say that I'm sure we're gonna say this point like several times this stream, but with Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey, the only two games we've lost out of 7 were Everton when Xhaka was half fit, and Man City when we took the best team in the league 90 minutes and went punch for punch until we got a person sent off. And the issues in our squad were never up top. We have had issues with finishing, but our goals have always come from multiple sources. That's the issue. That issue was, it's so annoying, but it is what it is. I'm just going to chill. I'm going to let you lot go because if I say something, we'll get demonetized eventually. So just bear with me. What are we thinking though? Be real. How do you feel?
I am ecstatic. I'll go first because obviously my reaction is going to be different to maybe everybody else. But for me, I am ecstatic that we haven't made a decision. One of my biggest fears of this window was that we were going to go in and cave into the Vlahovic demands, who, you know, I've tried to profile for people. It meant a very big tactical switch. There was flaws that people were ignoring just because they wanted a big shiny new toy. But at the end of the day, it carried very real consequences that I wasn't comfortable with Arsenal Foot Club, you know, kind of doing. And now when I look at it in the January transfer window, one of the worst things you can do is basically panic and think in the short term, curb your investment in terms of the summer, which is exactly what Spurs have done, by the way, with, for me, depth players, people that don't really improve their biggest problems. And that's an example of something not to do. And in the meantime, Arsenal have cleared 5 foreign spots, have cleared 800K per week in weekly wages. And I'll just repeat that for those in the comments that don't know. The 5 free plus Aubameyang is 800K per week. And that sets you up beautifully for the summer. I didn't want us to kind of spend loosely on somebody that we didn't believe in that would impact the budget. And if we don't find the player that we're looking to add to the team, you don't add mid. I don't understand this fervent desire to basically grab a player when everyone is yelling for us to sell Deadwood, and then when you do sell the Deadwood, it's like, oh, we may need the depth. And again, those Deadwood, all of those players haven't amassed more than 2 starts, so I'm really struggling to understand, you know, the big clamor for why we've done what we've done. The only one, and I was kind of telling Willow off screen that I'm kind of annoyed at, is Callum Chambers, only because I'm not a fan of Cedric Suarez at all. But, you know, it's a small risk. And once again, Callum hasn't amassed more than 2 starts. So the same critique applies, even if I don't like the theory of buying on a Cedric. So it's just, for me, it's been a lot of craziness on the timeline to, again, people misinterpreting what the team needs. You know, the Bruno Guimaraes, like we'll get into it, but just overall what I'm seeing is just a lot of people not understanding that the January market is one for opportunities, not for pillar additions. And it sucks that we haven't got someone in. I felt we could have. I felt that there were cheap deals that we could have done. I'm not a fan of us doing nothing, but at the end of the day, we haven't blocked people. We haven't added somebody on the wage bill that wouldn't get a start. And I'm very happy with that decision because we have been short-termist in all of our transfer dealings. And so to see us not fall into that trap showed maturity for me.
Right. That's a very good point. And talking of good points, we're gonna add another person into our little stream here. So welcome, Nick.
Hi everyone.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, bro. Good,
Yeah.
bro. Good to have you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
How
Weird
you
day
feeling,
though.
man?
Very weird day. Very up and
weird.
down. I don't know.
I feel like a
I'm still-
diabetic. My sugar rush is
Yeah.
going up and down
Yeah.
from like knowing what's gonna happen with Oba. What are we gonna do? Classic transfer deadline day.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about all this. I don't know.
Should we
You
get
know-
into the Oba situation as like a little transition and might as well just break
Yeah.
that down for everybody, what are everyone's
sure.
thoughts?
I'm gonna let me ask. Who should I ask? Let's ask Willow, because I think Willow hasn't really had a chance to speak yet. So, Willow, what do you make of this Alba situation right now?
I think I've been probably one of the most vocal on here about Alba in the last like 3-4 months about how I don't think his performances have been good enough. Even before all of this falling out happened over, what he's actually like as a person, I didn't like his performances anyway. I thought he was a liability on the pitch. He couldn't finish. He wasn't scoring his chances anymore. But I didn't think he was doing much other than that anyway. He wasn't making chances. He wasn't beating players. He wasn't doing much of anything. So to be honest, I'm not that hard. I don't have that many hard feelings about it. Like for me, it's we're saving a ton of money on Alba for not having to have him for the next year and a half. I'm actually glad we've done it. I don't want to disrespect it though. I love Alba for what he's done for us as a club. The FA Cup, he's been brilliant, top goal scorer. He's been fantastic for us, but I definitely think it was the right time to go. And I think, we bit the bullet earlier than what we normally do compared to, in the past we've lingered with players that haven't been good enough and had to soak up their wage bill. So I'm glad that he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just feel like it's an interesting situation because I was very much at the beginning of the season. I think a lot of us were about how we were confident that Alba would bounce back this season with, after malaria issues going away and his family issues getting back into check. So I hoped he would do well. I'm a bit disappointed I'm not even that disappointed. It's the penalty losses that I'm a bit disappointed in, but he's not always been that ball striker anyway. So, I mean, Rohan's asking Nick, come on, man. Where's Isak? Come on.
Yeah. He's traveling to London again right now. I'm tracking his car.
Oh god! Did you guys see the cars yesterday? The car and the Selfridges and all that. Our fan base, man, it's mental. But yeah, with that situation, I'm it's interesting because I'm okay with it because of the amount. I think it's 27 or 29 million. We're saving
27 million pounds that are saved.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's multiple reports. I think I've seen one with 29, but 27 and 29 in that range. That's an insane amount, and we've got, as George mentioned, 800k off the books, including Aubameyang. So interesting, very interesting. The one thing I will say is, I don't know if anyone watched the NFC Championship game yesterday, but you can see with what the Kroenkes have done with the LA Rams. What they've done is they're very much aggressive. They're very aggressive in the market, and they're always willing to make changes. So they're always willing to. I think they sacrificed. I think was it 3 years of first round draft picks to get in Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Von Miller. So there's they are they're very aggressive in the market. They're always willing to make trades and make moves. So this isn't a surprise for me. I'm not surprised by how we're looking to do business, and this isn't a surprise for me. I'm one thing I do struggle with is the amount of people that have. If you look at other clubs, like for example Man United or Spurs, the amount of players that are just staying there just for staying their sake. The matters, whoever you want to mention, these Van der Beek, who's gone now, Lingard, etc. for Man United, and players like Ali, who's now gone, and you know what I mean. They have a lot of players just on the periphery that aren't willing to get in, not able to get in the squad, and they're just willing to sit there. We do not have that issue anymore. From now on, it's all buys, and with the amount of wages we have right now, it's mental. But I wish Aubameyang all the best. I think he's going to smash it at Barca. He's going to be someone that he will benefit off the amount of space he'll get in with La Liga. So let's see.
I mean, for me, with the Oba situation, he really was quite poor finishing wise and clinically this season, but he did improve in terms of his technical retention and he did improve in terms of his pressing numbers. They just weren't really affecting the team, and I don't think he had the benefit of the pivot. When we really look at our season, that Xhaka Partey partnership is really what took off our chances created, took off our efficiency. And for me, what it came down to is if what he's done is so unforgivable from a culture standpoint, which I'm willing to give Mikel the benefit of the doubt, because again, I think he's shown there is a way back for players that haven't crossed that line, and I'm not willing to really believe that he's just done this out of the blue, aka see Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's had a way back in, even if it's somebody that he doesn't trust fully, he has been integrated back. I think something's gone on that we're going to find out in that beautiful Amazon documentary. But clearly what's happened is, Arsenal don't believe it's beneficial to have him in the dressing room. And for whatever reason, that was kind of clear when they exiled him prior to the transfer window. And I never felt that there was going to be a way back. So regardless of what you may see on Oba, who for me is still absolutely a club legend for what he's done, he's won us a trophy. The amount of goals that he scored, it's just so sad, the rate that he did. He never really hit the 100 goals for us, which he was totally capable of doing. But the way it's ended is just very, very sad. But at the end of the day, as long as it's Mikel making that decision, I'm totally fine with it, because he wasn't a factor for us in our best period of the season this season. And so for people projecting top four, I just find it really weird logic and a little bit inconsistent if Oba leaving is the mark where you draw us being weaker. I felt as though that we kind of proved our consistency in other areas of the pitch. So for me, I'm sad to go, but I think it's best for the team. And in that aspect, it's really great for the dressing room. And I think that the boys are going to be a lot more closer together without that Oba thing hanging over our head. We're not going to have an Ozil situation here, which I think is really great that we have a bookend.
CK, what do you make of this, man? I haven't heard from you yet.
Well, he wasn't playing at all, so it doesn't really affect the season, him being gone. And it changes dressing room dynamics, because Oba's gone, so Laka is really now Laka's changing room, which is not necessarily positive, but Laka's now like the big guy in the changing room. He's been there the longest. He's been there the longest of those who will start games. So Oba's influence in the changing room is gone, and just the fans constantly, like, when he was on the pitch, he was the problem. Then when he came off the pitch, the problem was that he wasn't playing. So we just lose another one of those players that fans that just don't keep going back to. But he was a great player for us, and I thought he'd do a lot better this season. He played in the period where we still were nursing a lot of injuries. So he played with Partey, but he played one game with Xhaka, which was the Spurs game. And then after that, Xhaka got injured. So, yeah, he never played in a full-strength Arsenal team this season. Despite that, some of his misses were horrific, like the Newcastle one, some of the Watford ones.
Watford.
Yeah, the Newcastle
one. Odegaard, getting in the way of Odegaard was, for me, that was the one for me, man.
Obviously, he wasn't the best this season, but I think he's better than what we have. But the issues with the manager or whatever happened, then he was never going to be back in. So it's just better to take him away and take away the influence that he has, and just let the players get closer to being who they are, because that's another player that was at the top, gone from their path to being like the biggest at the club, which they already are, but for them to notice it themselves that they're the best in the club.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do want to touch on, because unless anyone else, I mean, Z, I don't know if did I get you on this?
Oh no.
No. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I forgot. I'm sorry. What do you make of this, man? Because it's a massive story today.
Yeah.
And, if you have any insight on how it happened, I'd love to hear it, man.
Bro, to be fair, like when this whole Aubameyang situation happened, I was away because I had COVID and stuff, so I didn't really have much time to say anything about it. And initially, I was really livid about how it was dealt with, because for me, it was just like we're approaching the January window, and I didn't want us to fall short, and now it feels like, honestly, it feels like we've fallen short because we've lost our main striker, which we started with in the start of the season, and the other two strikers in Lacazette and Nketiah, they're both leaving at the end of the season, anyways. So it just seems like now we're going to be having to replace all three in the space of one transfer window, which is in the summer. So it kind of, I don't know. I wasn't too happy with the situation, but in all honesty, if it means that if the room dynamics is a lot more streamlined, because look, usually when players, are kind of, ostracized from the team, you see a reaction, and I feel like the reaction has been positive from the players. We've seen more of a bounce, we've seen more of a kind of a performance from the players, and we've seen us score more goals. So obviously, it's probably a more of a positive notion for the team. But I just don't know, like, whether we should have released him now or we should just loaned him out for 6 months and see if we could have had a increased value and then sell him. I don't know. This is where I'm just trying to think, like, did we make the right decision or not? Because again, we're already losing two strikers on a free. What do you guys think of the financial situation, anyways?
I mean, if you look at the financial situation, it's what, 800K a week off the wage bill, with with no like massive contracts on the books. I don't think we're in a situation where like there's players that we want to get off the books, but we can't due to their contract. I think Pepe is literally the last one. If we're talking about me personally, I've always, if you followed me at all, you know that I always hope Pepe does well. It's just I don't have the belief in him that others do. I think he's the last one with Cedric, maybe, and I don't think either of them are going to be hard to move. I think Pepe is going to get traction in clubs from Germany and France, and Cedric is, I think, not a hard contract to move, so not really many issues
Look,
with
mate,
it. I
it's
think
huge for me because at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
it's really massive.
he had to give up his wages. I mean, he going on a free, just logically for people to understand, is either there on one hand he mutually terminated his contract with Arsenal, which by the way, Arsenal have been very vocal of saying they're not willing to compromise at all on that, or B, Oba has literally said, cancel my contract, I'll give up my wages, and I will sign for Barcelona according to the wage that they dictate, which for me, again, it's saving 27 million, but it also doesn't mean that Arsenal have to pay that back retrospectively. It doesn't mean they have to pay. It's very similar to the Willian situation. So if this was the outcome of Oba has to leave, I mean, Arsenal financially have come out the best out of this, really. They haven't had to pay a mutually terminated contract. They've got a bad dressing room influence out the door for nothing, sure. But Oba wasn't going to command a large fee, even in the summer, if you were going to pay him out. If either you got £7 million or you had to pay the £27 million to terminate his deal. Arsenal have had zero financial impact at that point. So for me, it made a lot of financial sense. I can't believe he did it. I'll be real. That's a lot of money to give up. And mad respect to him. It really does mean he's focused on getting his career back on track, whatever that means, whatever's gone on. Again, I don't want to speculate because I think that will come out later, but mad respect for him to be able to do that because Willian did the same thing. And I said the same thing with Willian.
I mean,
Nick, it seems like you wanted to have an input on that. What did you make?
Yeah. I just want. First of all, I'm absolutely ecstatic that he's off the books fully. Like, if we weren't gonna sign another striker, I thought it was kind of pointless to like loan him out and pay half of his wages, and then have him come back in the summer and then still have to sell him. But yeah, I'm so happy, and I get the notion that it's going to be hard to replace three strikers that are going to be out the door in the summer. But personally, I'm absolutely sick and tired of having those guys that we just can't move. And we like, so for example, there comes the Carabao Cup in the beginning of the season, and we all want to see Balogun playing. We have to play Pepe and Nketiah and Lacazette over him because they're older. And I'm so sick and tired of shit like that. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So I'm happy about these three guys living. Same with Pepe, same with Mari potentially if it means Saliba coming back. Same with Chambers. I'm happy, and as George said, it's not like that all of these guys were playing a lot. It's Like, especially with Oba gone out the team, no one. How many of these guys started a game the last couple of months in the Premier League?
Well, if you look at all the depth signings, mate, that we let go, like the biggest logical inconsistency for me was people saying we lost depth. Guys, every single one of those players didn't amass more than 2 starts. So please tell me, because in that time period of this season, by the way, we had injuries. Xhaka and Partey only played 7 games. So we had that scenario where the depth should have been used in those, and it wasn't. So for me, it's just very weird to comment on that. Look, I get that we didn't find an option to replace Oba, but I would much rather we save that to the summer if we believe that we're going big. Say you do get an Isaac or a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or something of that quality in the summer that just in January is far too difficult to negotiate. I'm totally fine with saving your money smartly instead of using a small move where, again, I use the Spurs example. I really feel that the Kuleveski and the Bentancur examples are going to hamper their ability to go big in midfield in the summer because they've allocated almost 70 million euros in assets to those 2 positions. And unless you're sure that they're starting 11 quality, which we can debate later, I think it's a perfect example of doing the wrong thing in the Spurs scenario of being short-term, worrying about it. Guys, we've done this for years. Arsenal have done this in the Socrates, the Leno mold. That entire summer was us thinking short-term and hampering our long-term vision. And we finally haven't done that. And I feel you can't win on both aspects of the argument. Don't sell dead wood, sell dead wood. People are going to complain. So
all I want to do is, and I'm going to be doing my own stuff, because what I hate doing is, and this is the reason why I think we all do our match reaction. We don't do them immediately as the game happens. We actually go back and watch. Is I want to do some maths. I want to look at our squad and look at the squad depth of all of the rivals. But just just as a reaction, I don't see any of the top. Like Nick, I was talking. We were talking earlier about who's actually improved, and you went West Ham, and I'm like, yeah, but they have Europa League and the FA Cup to play as well. And
I think I was joking with the West Ham.
I know, but you're right. You're actually right, though. They're the only one of our top 4 rivals that have actually, improved. I mean,
who did they sign?
Did
they sign anyone?
They did sign someone.
Who did they sign? I can't remember myself.
I can't remember, but I know they did sign someone. I think was it a striker they signed?
No, I saw that they bid 50 million for Darwin Nunes, but
nothing. I don't think they actually
didn't
brought
sign
anybody.
anyone. They were just making big bids like for a
they didn't happen. Like Calvin Phillips, and they got rejected.
Yeah.
Well, one thing also, guys, just to maybe tie up the Oba, I will say I actually expect him to do very well in La Liga and with Barcelona. I actually expect him to score quite a few goals. You're gonna hear the beautiful thing of us saying we should never have sold him, yada yada. See what you can do, and he's not finished as what people are saying. He was poor, he wasn't playing well, but he absolutely is good enough for La Liga. He still's got his speed. I expect him to actually score quite a few goals while he's at Barcelona because they lack outlets. As a team themselves, they really needed somebody like Aubameyang. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else that was going to be a big space runner outlet. And in La Liga, he's not going to face the same kind of pressure that he does from EPL defenses. But as a whole, I think it's very sustainable what we've managed to do. We finally have got rid of all of our contract obligation mistakes from the past, really. I think Maury and Cedric aren't great, but they haven't really hampered the wage bill in the same way that an Aubameyang does. I think this is the first time in our squad, maybe you guys can just double check for me, there is no kind of overlord holding all the wages in our squad. No. All of the Raul mistakes are done. There's a couple players we all want gone, like Pepe and Leno, for example. But, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the max these guys are on, which is in Pepe's case, 140K. They're not the 350s, the 300s, the Laka on 180. All of this stuff is done. And so when people start saying, is it sustainable? I hear the fact that we're canceling contracts, and maybe we do an Edo discussion later in the pod.
We need to.
But I must say, this is the first time Arsenal Football Club don't have superstars that, are on huge, huge wages that, are hampering our ability to move in the market. Last year it was Eddie and Lacazette who hampered us. They're gone. So I'm very excited to see what a clean slate actually does for the club.
I mean, the last thing I want to say before I want to I do want to move on to the Edu discussion. But the last thing I'm going to say about the squad depth issue is, I just don't. I'm going to reiterate it. I don't see a Man United. Man United didn't sign a central midfielder. They actually let, I think, 6 or 7 players go. Tottenham, I'm sorry, but Bentancur doesn't move me like it does everyone else. I've seen one and a couple of Spurs accounts going that he's the next Pirlo for Conte. So now that'll be interesting to see what he actually does. Kulusevski is cool, but I again will tell you that if your fullbacks are Emerson and Regular and your back three is Dyer, Romero and Tanganga, or what's the other guy's name?
Ben Davies. If he
Ben
does
Davies, yeah. It doesn't inspire me with confidence. And it's not even about being sustainable. They just haven't played a lot of games because of the COVID situation over December, and they have played. I feel like they're going to be very good in like big game, one-off games, but as we saw against Southampton, they won't be. They'll just crumble at weird times, and they'll either do very well in big games or get pumped like they did against Chelsea. So it's a very odd squad, very odd squad. So, and someone just posted something actually. I'll pull this up. Let's just talk about the squad size, just the size. Never mind the personnel, just the size. Compare it to Manchester City. City have 8 defenders, 8 midfielders, and 4 forwards. Arsenal have 7 defenders, 7 midfielders, and 4 forwards. Manchester City are competing in the FA Cup, the Champions League, and the Premier League. We are competing in the Premier League. It's just not the same. And even if you want to look at the defenders, like we have what a starting back 4, and then we have a drop off. The same thing happens with City. The same thing happens with City. They have Ake, they have who else? Zinchenko. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same sort of like level throughout the whole squad. And I know people aren't going to want to hear it, but we're not really in that big a trouble with the squad because people just look at what's happened on the day and feel like, oh, we didn't sign anyone. Oh, it's the worst thing. No, it's not the worst thing. We did what we wanted to do. So let's see. Let's just see. But I do want to talk about Edu because
So do I.
There have been reports today about Josh being at London Colney. I don't know if that's true or not. As always, I don't believe shit from Twitter or journalists or anyone. But I'll just say there have been reports that Josh is at Colney. If he is at Colney, which he was at the end of August, there will be talks. There will be a discussion on how this window went. And if Josh isn't happy with him, it could be the end of Edu. What do you guys think? Do you think Edu is in trouble?
I think we go around circle because I don't know if there's a person on the panel that doesn't want to talk about Edu.
I can't wait to talk about this.
No. How about this? I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna shut up, right? And I'm gonna go Z, and then I'm gonna pass it over to CK, and then we'll go around George, Willow, Nick, and then I'll speak. How about that? We're good with that? Go on, Z.
All good, man. Look, so everybody knows my point on Edu. I feel like he's not here at the club for too long. I feel like there's this kind of thing where we're kind of trying to just merge Per and Arteta into that whole recruitment kind of role, where it kind of makes Edu's kind of role redundant, really. So I already have a feeling that he's not going to be here for too long. But the fact of the matter is, whilst you're still here, you still have to make your mark. And what he's done since he's been here, he's just been using his contacts to try and recruit players from Kia, Jorge Mendes, and all these Bertolucci scumbags that we've seen. And also alongside that, he's been just terminating contracts. I've not seen one useful thing from him. Like for instance, this whole what's it called, Kolasinac deal, Chambers, this Aubameyang deal. There's not been much value where we could have said, you know what, Edu, you've actually brought something out of the bag. The only one we could have given possible credit for was Willock. This is where I kind of feel like, you know what, he's he's the kind of guy that we don't need at this club at this moment of time, especially if we're trying to become this, we're trying to streamline everything. We're trying to make everything, a lot more faster. We're trying to make sure that the communication in the club is tight. We cannot keep someone like him, especially due to his affiliation with Kia. It's just, for me, it just makes it's like there's this kind of conflict of interest which I just don't want to see associated with Arsenal Football Club. And to be fair, what he's done in this January transfer market, I mean, it's been appalling because one, he's put all the eggs in one basket for Vlahovic, which, fair enough, it's a bit ambitious, but it kind of goes to show, look, we're on transfer deadline day. We've signed no one, and there's been little to no kind of rumors that we're signing anyone, because you know what, I feel like this is what he's done. He's put all the eggs in one basket, and he's not been proactive enough to actually say, you know what, we've got some backup plans or whatnot. Yes, I understand some people are saying, you know what, we're being very picky with the signings. We're trying to make sure we make the right signings to ensure that we don't have any deadwood, etc. But the fact of the matter is, we still have 6 months to go. And me personally, I feel like there should have been at least a couple of signings to ensure that we have enough cover. Because look, what we done because of his incompetency. Look, we've kind of dropped out on all competitions just purely based on his inability to bring in the central midfielder straight after Ainsley Maitland-Niles left, and just looking out for us to ensure that we at least have a striking cover, because now it's just Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah. So I don't know. Overall, man, we need Edu to get the hell out of the club, and I feel like he is going to leave sooner than later. Anyway, CK, I'm going to leave you to rant about him as well, bro. Go on, go ahead.
Well, yeah, for me, Edu, do I really care for him? Not much. I don't think, surprisingly, this is not his worst window at the club. Yeah, he put all his eggs in one basket, and for me, I don't really care about the rumors. I've never really cared for transfer rumors, but I don't think he's ever been necessarily good at his job or good at shoring up deals. I think he's an easy target and gets blamed for some things that he hasn't done, but I feel like he just doesn't need to be there. For me, I don't have as big a problem as other people here do, but I don't like him and I don't particularly want him to be there. But this window per se, he's not been the greatest, but I don't think we needed to do as much as people are clamoring for. So, and if I want a replacement, I'd maybe say Michael Edwards because he's free of a job. But that's my 2 pence. I don't have a lot to say on Eddie because I really don't care for him.
I think with Edu, typically on Twitter, people know me as the optimist, and I'm very much a person where I try to give so many people the benefit of the doubt before I really, really go in. But now that I've had enough sample, I can actually talk about how horrific he's been. When you really deep it, the amount of contractual sales that he's been able to do has been negligible. He's relied on free transfers and the Kroenokes basically mutually terminating contracts, never getting proper fees. A lot of the benefits that we've seen contractually from the last summer came from Richard Garlick introducing buyback clauses and different things. It was not Edu. Edu's Rolodex has been consistently his friends from Kia and his relationships that way. If we had his way, we would have signed Neto and Emerson in the summer. The board has declined his Arthur recommendation. I find that what he's done for the club, both in incomings and outgoings, has just not been good enough. A lot of the major pushes have really come from Mikel. And so I'm struggling to understand what additional benefit he adds, especially when I've seen positive improvements from Richard Garlick. I've seen, obviously, Mikel have a really good eye for talent. And so for me, I'm struggling to understand why we don't complete that trifecta of a team when we clearly need a David Dean type person to really help us get deals over the line. And you know what? Forget even the transfer values of incomings and outgoings. We have had a problem about completing transfers for almost a decade. And the only person to really solve it was Raul to do under the table kind of shady stuff in order to complete that goal. And so for me, it's been a problem position for absolutely years, basically until David Dean. And so for me, I think he never should have got the job in the first place, period. I really struggle to understand what he did at Corinthians to really show that he was capable in doing that. I think it was very lucky that we kind of followed the Ole mold of basically recruiting one of our own and assuming he'd get up to speed quickly. And I wasn't a fan of doing that at all. In terms of maybe just to end and cap it off about suggestions, because I'm always about providing a solution, I'm totally with Chris. I've said it for a while, since basically the September, ever since Michael Edwards got confirmed about not going. He was the best signing we could have made. Both this transfer window and for the future. That boy is absolutely insane. He's shown consistently at Liverpool an ability to basically draw things out of nothing. But he also would give me confidence in the odd case that if Mikel were to leave, we would have somebody competent to replace him. That's always been my biggest thing for a technical director, is not so much just transfer incomings and outgoings, but having somebody confident who can replace an option if they were to leave, aka Mikel, or somebody big at the club. And I just don't feel confident beyond Mikel and many people in that hierarchy making good decisions for Arsenal Football Club. So another one is Paul Mitchell, who's at Monaco, who was previously at Southampton, who had an excellent record of recruitment. I think that's another option that we could look at. I'm not really as much of a fan anymore of really going down the Mark Overmars route of basically hiring our old legends. But, he has done an okay job at Ajax. I don't know. I think ultimately it's going to be Michael Edwards or Paul Mitchell for me are the top two clear candidates that, I could replace him with. But other than that, I'd have to kind of defer to other people's judgments, because I don't think there's many technical directors out there beyond those two.
Well, with me, with Edu, I think I've had enough of him as well. George, as you said, he wanted Neto and Emerson in the summer. I think that sums up enough on what his judgment is like. Again, he's gone for Arthur and he didn't get him. The board have denied him of that. So, do the board even trust this guy? And that's a big thing. If the board don't trust your judgment and you're in this kind of job, we have a problem. And we can't get deals over the line. And he's meant to be one of the guys that's meant to initiate conversation and, get it warmed up. And he can't seem to do it. He's been very poor. We haven't got transfer fees. As much as what we have got rid of has been dead wood, you do look across to other teams and think, hang on a minute, these teams have got some money, if not good money, for quite poor players. And we've not been able to do that. So as much as I blame the old regime as well, I still believe you can do better. You can't do much worse than what Edu has done at Arsenal at selling players. Apart from the Joe Willock for 25 million, you can't do much worse. And he pisses fans off as well. He antagonises them on purpose. The kind of stuff he posts, the kind of things he does, he pisses fans off. He's not a very PR guy either. He's not. I don't think he's very intelligent when it comes to this sort of stuff. You can't be antagonising fans in these type of situations. You're just going to stir the pot.
I don't think him. Just to go against your last point, I don't think him posting him doing a barbecue is antagonising fans. Fans just look for a problem with him that they just don't like because he's not signing players.
I don't know. He's done some stuff. And when it comes to the Michael Edwards thing, as much as I agree with you boys, he's been fantastic at Liverpool and he'd be a dream. Well, one of the big reasons he's leaving Liverpool is because he doesn't want to be full-time anymore. He wants to be a part-time person. And that's the reason why he's leaving Liverpool, is because they need someone full-time. So as much as Edwards would be nice, we need someone full-time as well. We need someone who's going to be there. We need someone who's going to be able to actually steer this ship a bit better than what has been done in the past. This is a really important role for Arsenal to get right. So I don't know about getting Michael Edwards. If we could get him full-time, obviously I would.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Nick?
If I'm fully honest, I genuinely have no idea what Edu does. And so I have refrained from criticizing him too heavily because I genuinely don't know who does what. It's not been clarified enough to the average fan. There's not been communication about who has what responsibility in the Arsenal front office. So yeah, I mean, obviously things haven't been great lately in terms of sales, in terms of what all of you talked about, like the contract terminations and not being able to get a fee for anyone. But again, I don't know how much blame can you place for specific things. Like, for example, I think the one the one signing that was not the one single piece of business that ruined last season was not getting Awar because not because Awar is the perfect player, but because we didn't have any player in his position and we ended up being 15th in Boxing Day. So I don't know how much blame do I place on Edu, how much blame do I place for Partey for essentially no reason being left until the very last minute of that window. I don't know what place do you blame for not being able to shift Laka in the summer so we can sign Tammy Abraham like Arteta wanted, apparently. It's a lot of things, and I just don't know who does what. But, if you look at the overall picture, we have not made enough sales. We have not made enough signings because we have been unable to make sales. So, yeah, I mean, he just doesn't look good at his job. The optics are bad, regardless of how much blame he has for every specific action. I will say though that I simply never care about him posting pictures of his barbecue. Like, I mean, come on, Karen, you're muted, bro.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big a thing, and thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that big a thing.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
Instagram stuff.
yeah.
He's a person. Just let him live his life. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter if he's having a cigar or having a barbecue. He's just a human being.
Yeah,
But
and like no one works for 24 hours. Like, no one.
And my thing is, and it's quite clear. I do want him gone, but my whole thing is, and it's a point that's it's quite closely related to yours, Nick. Is I'm so fed up of this separation. Like, this is from both sides of the argument of everything that's good is one person, everything is bad is the other person. Everything is it doesn't matter. There's a reasoning why this is the good person, this is the bad person. Arsenal is a club, right? It's not a one-man operation. It's a club of and there's multiple. There's a team behind it. I don't think it's a case where every deal is like, Edu didn't see this and that's why the deal came off, or Richard Garley didn't do this and this is why it didn't come off. No, it's things fall apart. There's multiple people involved. This is the transfer window. It's not like it's a boom, 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 very like systematic thing where you can just say, okay, this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, this is going to happen. There's very, very, very much a case of the landscape is constantly changing. So I do want to address one thing. How do you guys feel about our squad composition right now? And finally, how do we feel about the window in terms of like just say out of a 10, right? And we're gonna go a bit quickly because I do want to move on to other topics that might be a bit more fun. So I'm gonna go first. I think it would be 6.5, maybe a 7 out of 10. I don't think we got wages off for summer. We made sure we didn't go with crazy, stupid deals that might hinder us in the future. I don't see there being this massive crisis with the amount of games we have left in this season. I don't think that panic buying. The only thing that is making this from an average to a good window is we could have got a striker. I would have been happy with Isak. I would have been happy with a DCL, or happier with a DCL, or Eminguri, or someone like this. I don't really care about how much money each of these go for. What I care about is, well, how much money do we have to spend in the summer? That's what I care about. And with the wages we freed up, it's a very good thing. So I'm not willing to say it's like a 3 or a 4 because we didn't make a signing. Because honestly, I would rather not have players just sitting there doing nothing and be waiting for their moment to shine. It's not like we're in the Europa League or we're in the FA Cup or something like this. We just have one set of games. So for me, 6.5. Z, what do you think?
To be fair, look, I'm kind of disappointed with the incomings. I was expecting at least 1 or 2, or at least 1 at the bare minimum. But the fact of the matter is, we know we've done very well in terms of letting players go, terminating their contracts, and kind of minimizing the number of players in the squad, which kind of gives Arteta Arteta kind of dynamic way. It's a bit more intimate, and it's kind of similar to how Man City operate, where they have a very small squad, but the quality of players there are, quite high, which kind of works out well for them. But we'll see. We'll see how that kind of fares. And overall, I'll give it a 5 out of 10 window. It would have been higher if we bought a player in, but it is what it is.
CK?
We got a lot of things out like Chambers, Ainsley, Mari, Aubameyang. I forgot everyone else, but and we didn't bring anything in. I would have liked maybe I would have liked an attacking option, preferably like a left winger, or 10, but we didn't get that. So 5, 6, because we didn't bring in anything. In fact, yeah, 6.
6, I would say 6.5 is where I'm at.
But the window's not done, so
Window's not done. But the thing is, at this moment in time, I was thinking something like as I'm thinking, yeah, 6.5 max. George, what do you think?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. The big thing for me is we've got rid of depth, but not through deals that are all confirmed out. For example, Mari's just a loan. Callum Chambers, we kind of got off the books. Oba was also him making a concession. Again, giving up his wages like Willian. So a lot of the wages that we've done well to kind of get rid of have come from player concessions, not us actively doing well to get transfer fees. So it's kind of hindered a little bit of the outgoing success that even you could attribute. And of course, incomings, I don't really see much joy in that department. I still preferred Sam Johnson as opposed to Matt Turner. When you look at that profile, and that incoming is really the only one that we've really got, as opposed to the recently Colorado Rapids defender that, we're not too sure he's probably never going to play for us, in the squad. But I think you've got almost a 0 out of 10 for incomings, because for me, there was feasible options that we could have done. I didn't agree with the major signings of your Vlahovic and your Isaacs, but I still thought that there was some small feasible deals that we absolutely could have done, that we didn't do. And so for me, it's been a poor window, regardless of how positive I feel about the summer and our outlook on top 4, which has not changed for me. But when I look at it in the whole cold light of day, this window's been poor. I don't really know much redeemable quality from the window. If you just look at it clinically, outgoing or incoming, there's been one okay-ish deal, in my opinion. But other than that, we haven't really done much to the squad to benefit it. And a lot of the stuff that was great outgoings, again, for me, came from player concessions. So Oba's the biggest one, but that was totally on him. That's not us basically saying, we'll sell you for value or whatnot. So yeah, again, it's really tough for me to give a positive transfer window.
Willow?
Yeah, from 3 out of 10 for me. I agree with George with the fact that it's not to our credit that Alba's gone. It's to him actually just wanting to leave.
But why does that matter though?
It doesn't matter. It does matter. It obviously does matter
because it's not like Arsenal have done that.
Yeah,
like
the only thing I'm going to say is, I'm sorry for interrupting, but the one thing I will say is, I don't really care why it happened, but it happened. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, the main thing is it's happened, and that's the fact of the matter.
I can't benefit Arsenal though, right? Like if
no, but
we
I'm
were
not saying put it on
active
Arsenal.
in doing that, I probably would have raised it.
I'm not talking about Arsenal being credited for it. I'm talking about the window as a whole. If you're looking at the window, it happened. Who cares why it happened? But it happened. I'm not benefiting. I'm not saying, oh, Edu's had a masterclass here. He's done amazing. But what I'm saying is, the situation is there. Why does it matter who did it? The fact of the matter is, we're in a better situation in terms of our wage structure. Obviously, could have used some players, but we're in a better structure because of it. I'm not saying it's Edu who's doing it, but the club is in a better situation because of it.
I would place more value in the club actively pursuing a key performance indicator and getting it done, as opposed to having an outcome fall on their lap, which is what's happened.
I think we'll disagree
for me,
there,
and that's why I have it so low as a 4. I mean, again, if we had sold Oba for money to Saudi Arabia and we got 7 million, then I'd probably change my rating. I would probably give it a 5 or a 6 or something, but that didn't happen, so I can't.
Yeah, and I know I would agree with you about the lack of the signings, and that's why I couldn't rate it higher. But the reason why I would say a 6.5 is because of the potential of our summer now, because of it's not only the cash injection we can get, but also the amount of wages that we are and the foreign spots available now because of the amount of business we've done in terms of getting players out. But that's just me. I just think that I personally, my view on it is to look at how the actual situation is instead of looking at who is the one doing it. What's the situation and how we're doing it. But yeah, I want to move on to Nick though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
can
okay.
I finish? I didn't even really get.
Yeah, go for it,
yeah,
Will. Yeah,
go on.
finish
sorry,
up your
Willow.
rating.
Sorry, yeah, no, I did cut you off. Sorry, Willow. Yeah, go for it, mate.
I was just going to say as well is with the Chambers and that as well. Like I think we should have personally kept Chambers. I think we didn't. I don't care how many minutes he played. I do think 2 injuries to like either Gabriel White or Tomiyasu, and we're in a really bad stint of Cedric having to come in. And Cedric has put in some of the worst performances I've seen in the last 10 years at Arsenal. So I think we're in a bad stint there. And then again, as well, like the other people that we're crediting so much on outgoings, they're only on loan. We've still got to deal with them in the summer. Like we're getting rid of them for 6 months, and most of them aren't even on high wages. So it's not like a huge credit. I know we're getting them to be in a playing club, so people are seeing them, but we still have to deal with the transfers when they come back. And obviously, we didn't sign anyone either. And I do think we are a bit more light than maybe others think in the defensive areas. Anyway, I'm not as pissed off about like the defensive mid and that.
Okay, fast, Nick.
Yeah, 3 out of 10 at most. It's to me it was a very, 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 very poor window because look, in terms of outgoings, Oba was great. If Oba was like a straight loan, it would be like a 1 out of 10. It would be like a pointless window. But like Oba leaving on a free, it's cool. But like, look, Kolasinac was leaving anyway. Chambers was leaving anyway. So like, and then with Ainsley and Mari, you could use them, especially Ainsley. Like, I know obviously they want to play, and I've brought this up in the past. Like, just because you want to keep around someone so you can play him once per season, it doesn't mean that they want to stay. But still, I think the reason I was positive about all these outgoings as the window was going on, because I thought that we were saving money to sign a big striker, but we didn't. And look, I will say that personally, and I think most people, nobody really expected a striker this window. But then the club led us on with Vlahovic. Like, if these links hadn't happened, I don't think anybody would be this angry right now. So, like, if we had no links to any strikers, I don't think everyone would be crying. So, but yeah, by the time, but like, we showed willingness to get a striker. We showed that we had 70 million euros, 75. So, like, I don't know. It's a weird one to me. Like, is in terms of strategy, I don't know where we're going in terms of not that it changes our long-term planning, especially, but in terms of like, so is Isak the backup option? Well, if Isak is the backup option, just buy him now, or maybe it's DCL. I don't know. And obviously, I said from the beginning, DCL was impossible in January, but I don't know. Clearly, the club wanted a striker this window, and they let Oba go. So the fact that we ended the window without a striker is horrible. And look, I'm positive on the team's chance to get top 4, but I can see that, like I said, is not reliable enough. And Keria is not a striker in my opinion in the Premier League. So I really don't know. Maybe I get proven wrong and Martinelli has a stint at center forward and he bags 10 goals. Maybe. I hope so. But like, I'm still confident that we're probably going to get top 4, assuming relative health. But it's an issue for me that we didn't get a center forward, considering we had the money to do it. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, if Isak was the target, to me, it's horrible that we didn't sign him. But maybe he wasn't. Like, my assumption right now is that he wasn't the main target. So, and that's why we signed no one. But I guess we'll find out all about that in the summer.
Okay, I'm going to switch up. I'm going to open it up. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about top 4, and then we're going to talk about winners and losers in this window and any specific transfers you want to talk about. But first, we're going to talk top 4, and I just want to open it up to everyone. I'm not going to do round the guys. So everyone, what do you guys think? Top 4 on? Are we finishing 8th? Are we finishing 17th? How are we doing?
No, it hasn't changed. I mean, I said what I said before
Right.
a ball was kicked in the preseason, so it's not going to change
We
now.
all did.
Yeah, so like I don't think that top four is really going to change. I think probably the biggest competitor that's really changed is actually Manchester United, and not in a positive way, in a negative way. When you actually look at what their window has been, and let's assume that Jesse doesn't go through, because I haven't seen anything confirmed that he
Yeah,
is
probably
actually.
is.
Yeah, so like let's say that he stays. Ultimately, just to double check if they've lost everybody that I've said is Greenwood, which again I'll probably keep it short. Much of better content creators have spoken on the topic than myself. I don't think there's much to say beyond. I hope that he gets what's coming to him, and then at the end of the day, though, he's not a factor for their front line. He's gone. They got rid of Donny van de Beek. Who else did they get rid of? Guys,
Ahmed Diallo,
uh,
Tony
Diallo,
Marshall.
Martial.
Anthony Martial, who like it's huge for me. They've weakened their forward line massively. So
The reason why I said Diallo is because he would have been an option on the right without Greenwood. That's why I mentioned Diallo.
I mean potentially, but ultimately, like United have failed with their front line in terms of weakening their squad. So for me, it really kind of almost removes them from a big portion of the factor in top four. And then when you look at Spurs, in terms of their incomings, again, I've said my thoughts on Kuleveski and Bentancur. I don't think Bentancur is a very good midfielder. I think he gets really.
He's bang average.
He's very average. He gets found out in the Premier League. In fact, I think Oliver Skip is a better option than Bentancur for them. And then, Kuleveski is somebody I do like. He's somebody with excellent ball striking who's a real interior. I would have wanted him if, maybe we didn't have Martin Odegaard. He is an option that I think is useful, but I don't think he really improves the starting 11. I think at most he's a depth option that's kind of an interesting one to talk about. But again, for me, he's really stiff. He'll be great in transitions, an excellent ball striker, but I don't know how he fares in a low block. And for me, it seems like Conte would put him in that number 10. But again, they lost as well. Lo Celso, Dele Alli, and Ndombele, who I know weren't players that were playing, but again, for me, were options a lot better in that number 10 spot. That I don't know if Kuleveski has that kind of intricacy to play those passes between the lines against the low block. For me, Spurs haven't improved where they were weak, namely their build-up, their wing backs, and their athleticism in midfield. And, in transition, I still believe, beyond an attacking sense, they're going to be vulnerable in transition. And I don't think Kuleveski solves that major problem. Again, it's another person that could be an outlet that gets them from point A to B. That, again, is something that they have as a strength. So, I mean, there's a little bit of positivity there. But again, I think they've ultimately weakened their squad by getting out those players in midfield, not replacing anybody in the build-up, and basically relying on what they've got in the back there to improve. And so if you're looking at overperformance, I still see Spurs not really having a factor. And of course, look, Arsenal, we haven't necessarily improved in incomings, but for me, a big thing is getting a fit squad was massive for us. A big reason we've had to go into this depth argument is because we had a squad ravaged by injuries. And so when you have us coming back with a fit squad, I do argue that we are stronger. Neil Smith-Rowe coming back fit, Tomiyasu back fit are huge things, So for me in the top four race in all, I felt as though Arsenal, Spurs, and United haven't advanced any more than what we were. So if I felt that we were top four before, I see no reason why to change it.
I agree. I don't think we're going to fall out the top four race. The noise that I've heard a lot was from the people that didn't believe in the team at all, or never even rated the initial quality of the team. So I feel like they're just naturally
the spaces are wild, bro.
In the fact that they're gonna get top four. I'll be wrong. I don't listen to any spaces.
I don't listen to any spaces,
So,
but I've seen people send me screenshots. I've been sent screenshots of people in spaces.
I think like obviously Tottenham have got a good player in Kulusevski. The Bergwijn deal fell through back to Holland, so he's staying as well. Dele Alli went to Everton, which was a weird deal for me, but so I did a winger slash midfielder who is better depth than they had and better transition threat than they had. But all in all, they still didn't bring in any midfielders, so their control on games won't improve. So it's going to be basketball games as it was before the window. And
Yeah.
you win some of them like they did versus Leicester. You get lucky in the end. Sometimes you just lose. And it's a very risky way to go. But I feel like midfield controls the way for us to go. And getting our midfield back from suspension and being fully fit with the 3 week, for Xhaka, 5-6 weeks break.
Yeah.
And for Partey, 4 weeks break. So a whole month out, just getting fit. And Smith Rowe finally fit again. And Saka fit again. He hasn't really been fit since the United, but he's been playing. And then Tommy was playing on an injury as well. So all these guys not playing on the injury anymore and just keeping fit. For me, top 4 is on. I predicted top 3, and I still think it's on. But yeah, I thought top 4. This just because we didn't sign anyone doesn't mean that we're going to finish 8th.
No.
I think that's just insane.
All I'm going to say is, and I'm going to be very brief because I want to get Z and Willow and Nick on this, but I don't care. I don't care. We're finishing top 4. I just don't care. Like if you look at the additions that United have made, additions that Spurs have made, hell, the initial the deals that Chelsea have done, they're still light at their wing backs. They're very short after that. If one of their midfielders goes down, like I don't trust them, man. I'm glad that Mendy's back for them, because if Mendy wasn't back, then it's peak for them, because they haven't looked good. They haven't looked good without him, and it's very odd that they didn't do at least. I mean, I don't know if did they get Kennedy back, or is that
No, they didn't.
no, they didn't get Kennedy back. So I find it very odd that, since like the way this window has gone, and it's not just us, it's the entirety of Europe. Everyone's strapped. I feel like COVID's still a factor in this window. No massive deals have been done. The one massive deal that got done, I feel like, was Vlahovic. Really, I think. Can someone explain a higher profile deal than that?
Luis Diaz potentially, although I'm not as high as everybody on the timeline on him.
Even in
A
Europe,
bigger deal than Vlahovic. Vlahovic was kind of quiet because it was Juve, but Diaz is coming in to be a bench option, 100%.
Yeah. But the thing is,
and I don't know if they got Fabio Carvalho, Liverpool. Does anybody know? Is that
we don't know
actually-
yet. We don't know yet.
They're still negotiating for
The point I'm trying to make is that I don't feel like I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. It's not that we're amazing. It's just that everyone is crap. Spurs are crap. United are crap, and they're going to prove it again and again. And it's going to be funny. It's going to be very funny to watch people melt down constantly for the next month because we only play twice, and see that there's going to be a gap, and then watch the United guys get gassed, watch the Spurs guys get gassed, and then they'll throw away, and it'll be very simple. I'm not gonna step back on that. It's going to be very, very easy to predict how this is going to go, because fixture congestion is a thing, especially in the Champions League for United, especially when you look at even with the FA Cup for Spurs. If they try and go for that, they're not gonna. It's not as easy as people make it out for them. We play 16 weeks. We have 17 games. That's the reality of the situation. No extra games. That's it. And if you want to talk to me about how we're thin, I understand that, and we'll go through it again. I'm going to be doing a thread on it because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being told that we are somehow going to finish 8th again, because I just don't agree with you. And in terms of like our position in the league, even if we haven't won, we've drawn a game and lost a game in the Premier League this month. Okay, cool. I don't think that really affected us massively in the top 4 race. We lost to City and drew to Burnley. Okay, we have peak results happen all the time. Tottenham drew at Southampton. Okay, cool. Are they out the top 4 race? Watford beat Man United. Are they out the top 4 race? No, bad results happen. The question is where do you have? Is there consistent markers throughout the season of games and piling games together? How many teams have won 4 games on the bounce or 5 games on the bounce? I think it's just City that won 5 games on the bounce. I might be wrong on that, but if someone can correct me. But it's very, very. I feel disingenuous just to say that if you just have, it's over because we didn't sign anyone. I think it's a very short-sighted take, and people are acting very much in the moment, as always with this fan base and with many fan bases. But yeah, anyone else want to talk about the top 4 race? I think Nick, I think you've been waiting for a while.
I do, yeah. So first of all, just as you said, addressing the winless streak, I saw someone talk about the winless streak is 2 games. Like everyone's talking about January and all that. Look, realistically, nobody cares about the Carabao Cup. Obviously, it was great that we got to the semi-final because it felt really close, and especially after the first leg. But if you ask at the beginning of the season how many people cared about winning the Carabao Cup, nobody cared. FA Cup was, whatever. It wasn't great, but like, let's agree. We've agreed that the main goal this season is top 4, and it's still very much on. Obviously, Burnley result was very disappointing. And if you want to talk about the winless streak, Man City also what happened. It's not like we lost 5-0, right? So, yeah, I mean, look, and people are talking about stronger squads that other teams have. Look, let's talk about United for a minute because United didn't sign a midfielder. United essentially got a lot weaker this window. They didn't sign a midfielder, so it's just neutral, not positive or negative. But I mean, it's definitely negative, but it's not like they got weaker in that area. But also, they lost important forwards. Greenwood started a lot of games for them
Correct.
this season. Who else? Marshall didn't start. I mean, Marshall, Van de Beek, those guys, they didn't start for them. But I think if you look at United, one of their main strengths as a team was how they had like 3 or 4 quality forwards on the bench every single game and they could throw them on. Now that's gone. Like Cavani's injury prone, Rashford is injury prone as well. Sancho has been horrible. And it's not like they're not as scary as they were. I mean, even Ronaldo hasn't scored. I mean, his scoring form has dropped off a lot, and their midfield is not getting any better. People are saying Pogba is coming back. I mean, we've seen what happened with Pogba in the double pivot in like 3 years now. It's not like a world class double pivot players coming in. It's the
Do
same
you mind if I
thing.
make a quick point, Nick? I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
you to continue.
Yeah.
They still have the Champions League and they still have the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So just to add to your point, that then it's not like they have massive amounts of options, and yet they're still in more competitions. Sorry, this is in my mind while you were talking, but sorry,
Yeah.
continue, mate.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about Spurs, I think it was clear that the main area that Conte wanted to address his window was right wing back with Adama Traore, and they got rejected. So I don't think, and their primary forward option was Diaz, and they got rejected as well.
Yep.
So I don't think like Bentancur is whatever. It's just a body. I don't know. It's the equivalent of Arthur for us. It
Yeah.
doesn't really do much for them. And with Kulusevski, he's a good player. I think Conte is the best manager that could get his hands on him because, like, if he went to United or Arsenal and had to play right wing, I don't think he's a good option there. I think he's too stiff to beat fullbacks in the Premier League 1v1. So I think he's a good player for Tottenham system. But if you want to go 3-5-2, he doesn't start over Kane and Son. And if you want to go 3-4-3, is he a massive upgrade over Lucas? No, in my opinion. It's whatever. I mean, I think Spurs definitely need to improve in the center of defense. They needed a number 6, which they didn't get because Bentancur, he's average, whatever, but he's not a number 6. I think that's clear if anyone has watched for Juventus. He's more of a box option and not quality at that. They didn't get a wing back at all, right or left.
They lost Gil as well. He went on loan.
Yeah,
Even
but
though-
And
he never
Ndombele
played.
and Lo Celso
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know what I mean?
And Ndombele, I mean, it's interesting because like he's a good player for them when he plays. Obviously, he has some massive issues with his attitude and injury record and his fitness. But look, Ndombele, he was a good option for Spurs. Like there were some games that they could throw on Ndombele and change it for them. Now they're looking short in many areas, and again, people talk about how we're one Xhaka or Partey injury away from collapsing.
That's the rest of the top 4.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine what Kane, Son, any one of them gets injured. They don't have any other option. So, look,
Son is injured though. Son is
Yeah,
injured.
Son is injured.
I think he's going to be back after the break, though. I'm pretty sure. I mean, when he got initially injured, they were talking about that break as a goal for him to be back. But yeah, anyway, it's not. It's disappointing that we didn't sign a striker, but look, it's not. We didn't get weaker. and our top four rivals didn't get better. So to say that top four is gone, or that Arsenal are finished, or whatever, it's awful. It's just not true in my opinion. It's
It's
just
just dumb.
It's a Fugazi,
Yeah.
and you know what? You
Yeah.
know what pisses me off more, Nick, mate, is like the fixture. We haven't even like we were just
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about squads. Like you haven't even compared the fixtures that all of these lads have coming up. And you know, if you have a look, if you guys really want to look at it, just look at Manchester United from March 5th on and laugh. And then when you really get into Spurs, how many away grounds do they have to go to in the top six? It's mad. And you know, like we haven't even gone on to the favorable fixtures, which I kind of avoided because I think people think, oh, you're just being optimistic in that sense, but they matter. The fact that we've been to so many away grounds, period, has actually been a benefit for us. So, yeah, I'm with you, Nick. Like both player-wise and even fixture-wise, I don't understand where this idea is that we've lost top four has come from.
Just to buttress your point, George, do we not have one of the best home records in the league? Is that
Yeah,
not
we
a
still do.
fact? Exactly. So my point, just to buttress that is, people have to come to us now, and we have. Again, I hope this is still the case after the break. We've had an amazing set of fans that have been really got behind this team. So let's see. Look, and it's not even about a being optimistic or whatever. These are plain facts. I don't think we've said, Mikel's just going to pull it. No, these are objective facts here. These is constant energy, and the facts are pretty concise. The CK Willow, I haven't heard from you, so you guys, if you want to contribute, please do.
No, I was saying there's nothing drastically that's changed from this window and from the start of the season. Honestly, we've just lost a player, and he hasn't really contributed much to us this season. So I feel like some people are being a bit overreactionary, and I feel like we kind of need to calm down. Once we get our starting 11 back and we get Pepe El Neni back, we are in a good way. And again, like Corin said, we have one of the best home records in the league, and this is where this is our safe spot, because a lot of teams have to come to us. And if we perform the way we have in the first half of the season, there is no reason why we shouldn't get top four. I don't think the other teams, like for example West Ham, I don't think they've improved their teams as much. Tottenham, they've brought in a standing pole in Bentancur and Kulusevski. I don't know where he's going to play. Just kind of confused, especially in that 3-5-2 formation. And in terms of Manchester United, I feel like they've weakened themselves in this transfer window. Well, obviously we've heard what happened to Wood Green. He's obviously he's out of the team, and someone like Martial would have been quite useful, as well as Amadiala, but they've managed to weaken themselves as well. So look, we only need to think about ourselves, and if we just get wins on the board, top four should be ours. Honestly, like I've little to no like worries about this whole top four campaign.
CK Willow.
I would just say with
Go.
I'll just say I think our team, like our starting 11, is a lot better than like say Tottenham's, for instance. So I think our drop off of first team players to the squad, like the squad depth, is higher than what Tottenham's is. So it is for me. It comes down to injuries. If we're lucky and we don't get injuries, then yeah, I think we get top four. And because I do think our starting 11 is better. But if we get like two injuries, as I said, two of the four back line, I think it is going to be extremely difficult. Well, compared to like Tottenham, for instance, they bought in Romero this season. He's been out the whole season, so they've got him to come back. The other thing is as well, Conte, as much as these players may be average, I've seen Conte make Victor Moses one of the best wing backs in the league. So he can do it. So I think it is more difficult than maybe some are saying. It is going to be really difficult to do. I think we can definitely do it. I think it does. It just does come down to injuries. If we're okay with injuries, I think we'll do it. But if we're not, then I think it could be really difficult, because for me, Tottenham have had injuries this season, and I don't think their drop off is too bad compared to like Reguilon to Ryan Sessegnon, like Dyer's been injured. That doesn't really matter. Someone else has come in. I think their players are quite level with each other, because I generally just think they're quite shit. If I'm being honest, it's one shit player to another shit player, but they seem to shit house their way through like they did in the Leicester game. And just to add to what Tottenham did actually take L's with, we talked about Diaz, we talked about who else? Who else?
Traore.
Adama. They also got rejected by a non-league player. They couldn't agree terms with a non-league winger.
Yeah,
So
correct.
that pool is terrible. How would you not agree with a non-league winger? I do not know.
I just want to say about Conte and this, because I do agree. You know, he's an amazing manager. He's one of the best managers in the world. But my whole thing is I just feel like a lot of people are looking at the manager and not the squad. And I feel like this is very much a case with Conte because I don't think the sample size is big enough for us to go, oh, okay, no, this is cool. We're all here. It's fine. If it's if I just think again, if you look at how he's come in, they had the massive break due to COVID. They've not had a lot of games with him. I think what is it, 7, 8 games? I don't think that's a massive sample size. I just think that if you look at how they've set up and how they can be got out, my whole thing is that Southampton game. And I feel like they're going to be a team that will go to away games against the lower half teams and they will put on a lot of pressure, but I just don't feel like they have that ability to finish games off.
I
feel like
think
they're still-
ultimately, mate,
yeah.
like what you're not going to do is convince people that have already convinced prior to what we're doing. The big thing that I think I do want to say is when you look at Arsenal performance, no matter what kind of metric you want to use, we don't underperform and we don't overperform. What we've deserved to do from a point-wise accumulation has been exactly that this season. And so when you look at our competitors, we are the more complete performance, you know, when you're looking at, you know, all your underlying numbers, when you're looking at games, that doesn't guarantee much. But at the end of the day, let's just see how you know, the race goes. And I'm sure we're going to repeat and come back to this at the end of the season. Everyone will remind us of our predictions. But I oddly think that other teams in the Premier League had probably better transfer windows and more marquee kind of signings to talk about. So
Yeah, I think we
maybe,
should move on to that. That's a good
yeah,
point.
maybe boys in the
Anyway.
comments, you can like do questions if you need. But I think, Chris, you wanted to say one thing?
Well, I want to, before we go into like teams like Newcastle, which is probably the best window, I wanted to talk about Diaz to Liverpool, 38 mil. They needed options. Obviously, they kept Origi, who wanted to leave. So, but they needed options in their front line that could play right wing and left wing, apart from Jota, who's their second biggest contributor after Salah, despite being considered a bench option. Diaz, I think, obviously anybody with great ball striking is going to be overrated. I think he's a very good transition threat, but needs a lot of improvement in general play. I think he adds to them not having anybody apart from Salah to play on the right wing. Even though he's primarily a left winger, he's an option who could fill in the right wing if they need be. But Liverpool finally spent money and they tried to get Fabio Carvalho for 15 mil, but Fulham did not want it to happen at all. So I don't know if that's gonna happen by the end of the thing. And they lost Nat Phillips, but yeah, they finally spent money on a left winger, surprisingly. But before you go into Newcastle,
I find it weird though, mate, because like maybe we just stick with Liverpool because I had some questions. I want to get other people's, you know, thoughts on this. I kind of went in on Liverpool. I don't know, Nick, if you and others that have seen in the past, I go in on them in terms of building their squad and the rebuild that I think is not talked about enough about how poor it's been. And when I look at Luis Diaz, I'm going to have to reserve, you know, kind of judgment to Liverpool's scouting team because they very rarely got it wrong. But I'm not a massive fan of the player. I think he's very, very raw, makes poor decision making, and I don't know if he necessarily fits what they've tried to do of late. You know, particularly when you look at that left wing with Mane, I would have felt that the best price to quality kind of matchup profile wise was Kamaldeen Sulemana, and they've already got Jota down there, who I would have thought would have been their replacement for the left wing, but it seems as though that they're looking at him maybe as a false nine portion in the squad. But this new core that they seem to be buying is not something that, you know, I've seen really replace the quality that they currently have. And with Luis Diaz, I really don't know if he's the guy that they need. You know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I really feel that there's some decision-making errors in his game. He's not very clean in terms of his technical creativity. He is a great carrier of the ball and has excellent ball striking. Those are all true. And so in transition, you're going to find him quite well. But, you know, I don't know if he's got those off the ball concerns that really, you know, are what really a Liverpool player needs. You know, part of the part of the benefit of having a Mane wasn't just those ball striking and transition threats. It was that ability in the press, that ability, to really maintain his shape as well. And, he's really, really good at maintaining that width and outlet. And I just don't know if Luis Diaz has that same threat. Maybe he could be on the line, but I'm not as high on him as others on the timeline. I wanted to get maybe everyone's opinion on Liverpool's window and maybe their new rebuild, because I think there is a team below the team developing. I just don't know if that's of the same quality that Liverpool fans have expected.
Well, he's going to be moved to right. Well, I think he's going to fare more right wing just because Jota has their most non-penalty goals. So you can't really drop him on the left wing. Mane might come back and maybe play, but Jota has been the second best player, maybe second best attacker, but second best player probably this season after Salah. And Diaz,
Yeah, but Jota plays up front mostly, though.
he does. That's only because Firmino was injured.
Yeah, but he was also out of form. I think a lot of games, like I remember against City and Chelsea, they started Jota over Firmino. So yeah,
I think
his first choice.
With Mane coming back, I don't think Diaz will start much. I think he'll be eased in or used as a threat off the bench.
Well, Klopp never does that, does he, mate? Like, even any signing, even whether it was Thiago, somebody who you felt that would come in straight away, and Fabinho, like, he does take time for them to adapt. But it's strange to me because it's another large left wing option that I'm wondering is the exact replica to somebody like Mane, that they need. But maybe I'm not seeing something that the Liverpool team is seeing, where that could very much be the case, because, again, they rarely miss on transfers. But I do struggle a lot with his off the ball decision making.
Especially with them, they moved to more of a technical team, so they want to do less in transition. So, which is taking away his bread and butter, which is why everyone loves him with the direct ball carrying, and he has a very good switch and shoot. But yeah, I'm not sure he'll live up to expectations.
Am I off? Is anybody on the panel high on Luis Diaz? Like, am I off? I don't know, like Nick or Willow or Z-Mate. Like, do any of you guys disagree with that? Like, I wonder, was that the money to spend on somebody like him?
Yeah.
I get that he was going to Spurs, and it was more of like, I don't want my rival getting someone, but is he himself an option to replace Mane long term?
He's 25. That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
I think you got to look at his personality. If he's willing to go to Spurs, I think that's a problem in itself. That's a red flag. So I would be looking at that, because he's obviously not a winner.
And he's not young. Like, this is the thing. Like, these concerns that I have, like, I wouldn't necessarily have them if there was a 20-year-old project that they're looking to blood in to take over Mane. By the way, again, Kamaldeen Sulemana, everyone watch that boy. He's very, very special. But, like, that is somebody that you would take the off-the-ball criticism, which, by the way, he doesn't have. Just people that don't get it confused. He's much more creative for me and he's much more complete in terms of what a typical Liverpool winger is. Like, I just felt this was almost very uncharacteristic from Liverpool, from both a recruitment policy standpoint, but also a player profile standpoint. And I mean, look, I'm glad that they're spending money, but I just feel like it could have been better spent. Is anybody else kind of opposing that? Like, I don't know. I don't get the hype necessarily with Luis Diaz.
No, to be fair, like I was kind of worried if Spurs got Luis Diaz, because purely I just didn't want that Spurs team to at least have an increased level of creativity. But for Liverpool, I don't know. It feels like it doesn't seem like the standout signing that they should have had. I mean, I feel like you said, Sulemana would have been probably a better fit for the team, but it seems like they're the kind of Liverpool Klopp is trying to create seems like a team that's more on the ball, like more of a technical side. But again, I don't know. It doesn't scream to me like, wow, it's an amazing player. It's just one of those. I feel like the money even spent for him was a bit too much, anyways, because I think it's total to around £50 million. It's a bit too much.
It was a £40 million deal, and a lot of people were hiring him when he was meant to go to Spurs. But I don't think he'll bang straight away. That's just me. But I think we should move on to Newcastle then. Of all the teams, because Aston Villa obviously did been this early, but Newcastle have done more since the last time we spoke about transfers. They've got Bruno G, who a lot of people wanted. They've got Chris Wood, Kieran Trippier, and Matt Target. I think they've had the best window. What do you guys think of their sign? Obviously, Bruno is probably, what, 40 million was he? 50 million
I think it
euros.
goes up even more after a while. I think it goes to 60 million euros at some point. I think I saw, and I think he's still owned by a third party. So it's crazy. To be honest, I mean, their window's good, and it may save them. But my thing I'm scared about is I think it's the willingness that you see from their owners to spend on some average players like Chris Wood, for instance. As you know, you might keep him up; he does get goals, but he's not going to be a long-term player to spend that much money on him. I think it is scary to look what they are going to do. I think if they do stay up this season, I think what they'll do in the summer window is going to be really scary because I just think they're going to go fully for it now. And I must admit, I think give Newcastle 4 or 5 years and they're going to be up there. They really are going to be up there chasing the top six. They're going to be trying to be a part of it in the next 5 years, I do believe.
What about you,
Yeah.
George, Nick?
Yeah, just want to say I thought the window was a bit weird. Look. I think from the off, we all knew that they're in a weird place because they do have plenty of money and they want to invest on young players that are gonna take them forward, like Bruno Guimaraes and all those guys, and that French young striker that they rejected.
He cut off the deal at the last point. Because they booked his plane and everything, and he said no.
Yes. So obviously, you'd rather them get most of these kind of players for their future, but at the same time, they're in a big relegation fight. So they had to get your Chris Wood and Matt Target and Dan Burn. I just don't really rate those players, to be honest. It's like the start of the window wanting Sven Botman and Diego Carlos. You guys are not world class or anything, but they ended up with a lot worse players. Like Dan Burn, I think they're going to play him at center back, but he's not really. He hasn't played much center back for Brighton, especially in the back four. And Matt Target, I don't think he's a good left back. He's probably good. He's probably Premier League level, so I think it's going to be enough to keep him up. But I just don't really see those great impact signings that are going to keep them up. Like I think they needed a leader at center back. Or someone very athletic, preferably. They needed a number 6, and they didn't get it because Bruno Guimaraes, contrary to popular belief, is not a number 6. And then I don't think. I mean, their attack is already decent if they keep Wilson fit and Maxman. But yeah, I don't know. I think their window was weird, and I'm not sure how they're gonna play. Especially if they get Lingard, but it's not looking likely. But with Lingard, I'm not sure how they would line up. But yeah, again, they're in this weird place where they want to invest in the future, but at the same time, they have to stay up. So they are doing a lot of these halfway deals, which most of them, apart from Trippier and Wood, who are old, they're going to be there for a few years as squad players. So I guess it's fine.
Yeah, the window started very promising with like the links with like Sven Botman, Badia Chile,
Diego Carlos,
Diego Carlos, Hugo Ekitike, like these young up and coming players, mainly in the French league, that they were linked to. But once they put in bids, the players just didn't really want to come to them. Like the Hugo Ekitike one's weird because they had the deal agreed and everything, and then he just decided once again on the plane that he's not going to go. So they had setbacks like that. But initially it looked very promising, but it took a different turn than I thought it would. I think Chris Wood, I think he's better than people give him credit for. He gives 10 goals a season, and it's something they need with Wilson, who gets injured a lot. And I think he's even injured now, but they need a player who they can rely on to stay fit, that will provide goals, and would work well, I think, with Trippier, who was their first signing, which is a decent signing at right back.
Part of the issue is we also kind of did highlight this about Liverpool. If you guys did catch up, or sorry, not Liverpool, Newcastle, when we did that kind of pod with, that Newcastle fan, I had always said that I felt that they would struggle to convince the targets based on reputation alone and money. At some point, I felt that the biggest way for Newcastle kind of to rebuild was to go through obtaining the best of the rest in the Premier League and building from within the league with very good shouts and offering them great money and kind of build that way. I think January is a tough market, though. I will say, to get your Sven Botmans and your Diego Carlos, regardless of reputation, would have been very difficult deals to do with their respective clubs who are their outright kind of starters. I think in all, I was really a big fan of the Chris Wood Trippier dynamic because I felt those are really easy goals that you could get in a team that's struggling for relegation and goals themselves. Combine that kind of with Alan St. Maximin, you start to have different areas that you can attack with. But then they kind of went a very weird route with Bruno Guimaraes for me in midfield, where I felt that they needed a little bit more of an anchor in that midfield to let some of their forward players kind of thrive, and they didn't achieve that. And Bruno won't do that. Bruno is not somebody that's going to come in to really shore up that anchor. He is much more of a box-to-box 8 that is really creative on the ball, but is very aggressive in counter-pressing, and it's why he gets dribbled past quite a bit. And so I think he's a good player, but it doesn't really fit for me. And what's even worse, guys, is how does that fit for Eddie Howe? Forget what my subjective opinions are. When I look at like Eddie Howe and his formation in terms of that 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 kind of variant, a lot of these signings don't fit that. Bruno Guimaraes for me is best as the 8 in a 3. And then you've got Chris Wood and Trippier, who you could do in a low block 4-4-2. But Bruno Guimaraes isn't that transition anchor that you really need to support that kind of attacking play. And letting, Alan St. Maximin go, who, by the way, is going to be on the same side as Bruno Guimaraes for me, is not great planning on the transition side. So for me, they started really well, but I don't know how those signings actually assimilate with Eddie Howe's philosophy. So I think they're always going to be a threat in terms of the money. They've showed their hand. They're willing to go after major players in Europe, Sven Botman, Diego Carlos. So we know the ambitions, but I'll be honest, guys, I don't know what you guys think, but it seems as though they haven't necessarily backed their managers to a degree, and it's really been a board decision about who they get. And, some of that was good, some of that was bad. And I just always feel when you've got a board with money, they have to back their manager's philosophy to the hilt. And so that means buy into what Eddie Howe's doing, even if you don't think he's the guy. You've got to make sure that you solidify things like that. So they had some, what's that gif, that Gattuso gif? Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That's kind of how I feel with their window. Like there were some good parts, but
it started very well, but the trajectory just took a weird turn. Like the way they were aiming for all these young players to bring in, like they tried to bring in Wood and Katika at the same time. So you have this strike option who guarantees you goals now, and then you blood in this 19-year-old hot prospect. So it looked like very strong, very smart planning. But then it just took a turn for the worse. And this last week they've signed 4 players with Matt Target, Dan Burn, and Bruno. So that's 3 players just in the last week. So they just took a really bad turn.
I do think they addressed their spine, though. They do have a spine now. Wood, Guimaraes,
Bruno G doesn't show up the spine. He's a player that doesn't help them physically in the middle. Maybe even
what he
makes
will
them a
do
bit
is
worse.
he will allow you to progress through the lines quite well.
I think it's a weird one because it doesn't fit Eddie Howe's philosophy.
It doesn't at all.
If we were talking about like a 3 in midfield type of manager, again, everyone knows like I'm not his biggest fan, but I could understand the logic for it. And then I went through a Chris Wood and Kieran Trippier to try to combine it. For me, they speak to very different philosophies about your progression through the line. Like if you're going to add a Bruno Guimaraes, you'd want somebody like an Ivan Toney or someone linking in. Like that interplay on the left is something that you would probably want to see from your striker. Chris Wood is a very different kind of striker. He's your traditional lump it, I'll take it down, and I will attack headers for you, and I'll guarantee you 10 goals, but that's not much else that I'm doing. And then you combine it with kind of Alan St. Maximin on the left. I really wondered who is going to help in transition on that left side, because I think it was just a mix of personalities. And I think even at the back, Dan Burn isn't my number 1 pick. I know that they needed something, right? And so it's a tough to really critique philosophy and all of this stuff. And maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but I do think some of their window was Eddie Howe kept in mind. And then the other half was the board saying, what kind of statement can we make? And I'm always afraid when you combine those two ideas. And, I've seen it with Manchester United and other poor rebuilds. For me, the best, rebuilds happen when you've got somebody targeting, within the league additions that are going to have quick adaptations, but pair that also with your managerial philosophy. Whether he's good enough or not, that's a club decision. But for me, it seemed odd that you would get kind of half the players for this 4-4-2 kind of low block explosion that they seem to want to do to survive, and then combine it with a very progressive option between the Limes and Bruno Guimaraes without having that anchor and that security. And I mean, they've already got Joe Willock, who I know is not everyone's favorite, but he is that free eight philosophy there. So unless you're changing formations and you're getting a new manager, it seemed odd for me that was the one that you targeted.
Like, the one thing I would say is with this Newcastle squad is, I remember talking to Newcastle fans. I do have quite a few friends that are Newcastle fans, and the names they were saying to me was Ward Prowse, Tarkovsky, Lewis Dunk, these kinds of players. Some that experienced Premier League players that played in the Premier League and are available for a specific amount that a PIF could put up. So I feel like they've gone for, as you've mentioned, George, they've gone for names. I feel like they've gone for a couple of names. I think Bruno G is, I'm not his biggest fan. I always say to people, if you think Bruno G was the man for Arsenal, I beg you go watch him in the Europa League against Sparta Prague this season. That's all I'm gonna say. Just like, it's on my profile. DM me. I'll send it to you. Like that game shows everything why I didn't want Bruno G in this league. I agree with you, George, about how I would love to see him under Gerrard. I think Gerrard would be a perfect manager for Bruno G. Put him in a 3, have him run the progression through the left side and do well. But let's see. What do you want? What I want to do?
I did want to get 1 second, Karen.
Yeah.
I wanted to get Nick's thoughts because he's also a little bit opposed to, I know my Bruno G evaluation, but what do you make of Newcastle's kind of overall recruitment, but maybe also a little bit about Bruno G just in general? Because I don't know if you maybe disagree with some of, because I know you're a fan of the player.
Am I? I'm not yes. I'm not
you appreciate maybe his positives a bit more is probably better. But
I mean, he's a good player for sure. I mean, the one thing that I think we do a lot as Arsenal fans in general is that a lot of the times, if we don't want a player at Arsenal, we say he's shit or stuff like that. We can appreciate players without wanting them at Arsenal. So that's one thing. So for me, not wanting Bruno at Arsenal doesn't mean that I think he's bad or the opposite. So he's a good player. With Newcastle, I mean, I talked about a little bit earlier, but I really don't see how this is going to work. What system? I like Bruno and Willock. It doesn't really make sense. They're both very aggressive players, both on and off the ball. Then you look at they maybe it could work in with a 3 at the back, but I don't know. Do they have? I guess they do have wing backs now, but it's not like Trippier and Target are the most dynamic. Trippier is more delivery from deep, and Target is whatever. He's, I don't know, just your average left back. So I don't know. It's I'm not sure. I'm kind of inclined to say that they're going down. To be honest, I'm not sure. On the one hand, they do have a lot of quality compared to other teams in the bottom, but I'm not sure how. They have a new coach. They have 7 new players. So I'm not sure how. It's not they don't have a preseason. They don't have anything. This could go spectacularly bad, in my opinion, in terms of the short term. I mean, I'm sure even if they go down, they're just gonna focus their recruitment on a bit younger players, a bit more low-key options that are going to be back up in a season. They're not going to let anyone leave, of course. They won't let Saint Maximin or Bruno leave. They go down. They're just going to be back up. But I'm not sure they're going to be. I'm not sure that it's going to mesh. I just don't see a natural balance of profiles that tells me, well, this is a good team. I don't know. I mean, even at Southampton, they don't have quality at all, but I do see a good balance of profiles overall. So I'm inclined to say that they're going to stay up. Or even with a Burnley. I mean, Burnley probably have the worst squad in the Premier League quality-wise. I mean, they did add some players now, but still, I'm not sure. I don't see a logic with this Newcastle side, as I don't see with Everton. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I
think
want to
that's a
do.
good
Yeah,
transition.
I do want to talk
Because
about Everton.
yeah. What are they doing? What are they doing?
I just want to.
with-
I want to quickly take this one because it's quite easy. I do think. I mean, me and George were discussing this earlier, and I think we both agreed. I think Decore is out for longer than we think. I think we. I don't know if I think me both. I mean, George brought it up, so I'll let him talk about it. But I just don't see this whole dual eights, Ali and
Yeah,
Van der
yeah.
Beek working. I don't
It's so
see it.
Lampard, bro. It's so
It's
Lampard.
very Lampard, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
and I feel like
Havertz and Mount.
yeah, and I feel like it kind of pushes DC out the door, hint hint. But I do feel I feel very worried for them, man. And what I hope doesn't happen is that he goes to a 4-2-3-1 and he ends up benching Donny for Ali because I can totally
Mm.
see it happening. I can totally see it happening. But I will give credit's due because it was George's point. So what do you think about this Decore injury, George?
I think it's. I mean, I said it immediately when they started going after 2-8s. I mean, the biggest thing with Lampard too, he tends to leave one player in midfield. Period. I think one of the biggest issues I had with him tactically is, he lost all compactness. And then when I saw them go for basically Donny Van de Beek in addition to Dele Alli, who for me is not even an 8, but it's he's trying to kind of almost do that Mount thing that he did with the 2-8s. He's attempting it, and for me. You don't get both of those who are also right-sided players primarily in what they prefer and tendencies if your right-sided defensive 8 in Doucouré was really, really fit. And for me, I think it's absolute suicide to do like a Dele Alli, Donny Van de Beek, and an Allen midfield. Like I don't know where the balance is here because Frank is going to go into 3, right?
I
Like
don't know who's going to cover the space. This is the issue. Who's
it's
covering
poor.
space?
It's poor regardless.
They
and,
do not.
like
They do not have a
like how
single
do
number
zones work?
6.
they
Like-
really
like-
don't. And Andre
like-
Gomez for me is
Andre
that
Gomez
in
is not.
between.
He's a box to box. Yeah.
He's that in between 6-8 that is more of an 8. When
Yeah.
you really look at it. And
I mean, that's the exact same with Alan and Doucouré. Like
yeah.
Like,
none of
I know CK isn't with us,
the
but
number
this is
6
CK. I
and
love this. I love when CK
more
says this
aggressive.
because Alan is literally only good in FIFA. Like it's not, he's not that guy anymore for Everton. I just don't feel like he's
not
someone.
good. Yeah.
No, he's just not good. And I do feel like Lampard will try his 4-3-3, and I just feel like it'll get destroyed. I just feel like they don't have who inverts. Is it going to be Coleman? Is he going to try Coleman inverted?
Look, I think they signed Mikolenko, who I think is a hybrid within a center back and a left back, so he's probably going to be back. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like my first instinct was either Coleman or he'll put Godfrey right back and try and have Godfrey invert. But
it's a mess
yeah,
because
it's
when
a
you
mess.
really start to think about it, like I know Nick, you were saying that Newcastle might. I honestly think Everton might. There's a big opportunity.
Really?
Only because I feel as though Lampard is the exact opposite of what that squad needed right now in terms of midfield, control. That's something that I really felt that they lacked. And I think Newcastle, they have enough there to be low block enough that it won't be an issue. I can't say the same for Lampard. And I really think that this gamble on a Donny Van de Beek and a Dele Alli as 8s, which is the only reason I can see both coming in. Like, I don't think you spend that kind of money on Dele Alli for him not to start A, but also B, I don't think Donny Van de Beek agrees to a loan on limited playtime. So I think
any sense.
I think they're both going to play. And then when I look at what they've got already in Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I'm wondering who that spare man is going to be in midfield. And if you're telling me that's Allen, I worry for you in the Premier League. Who's a absolute tight space player. I think he's a B-Tech Torreira in a sense in terms of what all the faults are. So
can you the one thing I thought of before Ali came in, before it was just Donny, I was thinking they were going to try a whole they're trying to recreate the Tadic link up. Then they were going to try and go for Donny and play him a bit higher, try and get him in that 8-10 space, and try and link up with DCL or something.
Yeah, that would work.
I think that was the idea. But now with Ali, like Is Ali going to be the one that drops? Like, who drops?
I think he
in
wants
that
him. He wants him to
situation?
be a mount. Like there's no, which I think is
Yeah,
horrible
just
because for me,
not.
Dele Alli's a
Yeah.
second striker with third man running.
Yeah.
Like you've basically put, like, I know we love talking about the 2-3-5, but literally you have a 2-3-5, but the question is your inside channels are literally in the box, and you haven't got the ability to progress from second to third phase at all. It's just vacant gaps, and if you lose the ball in transition, you're screwed. Like who's winning duels?
I don't know, and they've lost Lucas Digne as well, and I know they got Mikaloka. Like I get why they want him to kind of.
It's a good point.
That they want to invert, but for me, they've somehow weakened, and again for me, Duncan Ferguson got the best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Correct.
And I felt like I know it might be controversial, but I actually felt Duncan Ferguson had a better chance of keeping Everton up than Frank Lampard does.
Yeah, but because he play Richarlison and DCL up front, and that gets you goals. Yeah,
it does. It guarantees you goals. And I'm worried about the center. I really am, guys. And like I did want to ask like Nick, like what did you feel about relegation? Like, are you as negative as me? Like, do you think that that's a possibility? Which I feel bad for Everton fans because I think their squad should never do that, but I'm very worried about this.
Yeah. Let me look at the table because
I don't think I don't think they're going to go down. I think they do drop into that fight, but I don't think they go down. In terms of, I feel like they've. What worries me about the squad building, and first of all, let's be real.
Because they're 5 points clear of Watford, right, guys? And Burnley have games in hand, so I mean, I could see a case where they don't necessarily get dragged too, but they're flirting with that relegation.
Yeah, they are. But the thing
is,
they
haven't lost. They haven't won a game.
They have basically what they've done is they've seen that they're struggling. Instead of going. It feels like very much United squad building. They've got so many second strikers yet no central midfielders. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like they have,
Chelsea, Chelsea last season with Lampard. So,
it makes sense. Like they bought the guy to do what they're doing, but
Ali doesn't make sense. Like Van der Beek, I understand because you can you have your more physical striker to link up with and provide and feed.
What's a really good transition though, Curran, is because another team in the relegation fight, oddly, somebody that I rate as a manager but I hate as a club is Burnley. I would argue they got the best deal out of this, where they lost their striker.
Man.
They lost Chris Wood to a release clause of 25 million, and they somehow have.
They got a better player. That's incredible.
George will know because we used to fight over this. I love Wout Weghorst. He is a shithouse. I love him in the air. I just love having that ability to just to have someone just to hit and Giroud type sort of hit and hope, basically see what you can do and get amongst the
But he's technical too, mate.
This is the other point. He's much more technical than people think. He's very much a case of someone that can turn and hit very well, and I've always been a fan. And it's such a Burnley signing. And
I mean, when you combine that with like Maxwell Cornet, who's going to come back, and then you've got Dwight McNeil. They've got like an interesting little thing that I thought that they would go down because of the Chris Wood effect, but they've replaced better. He's better than Chris Wood.
It's central midfield that I worry for them. I worry in central midfield.
Yeah, they'll always, because they lack a central presence. But I mean, like Nick, what do you think, mate? Like, did they end up winning the transfer window? Like, I'm trying to look.
By the way, did you see the Weghorst announcement?
It was great.
It was fun. Yeah. He's massive, and he's younger than Wood, I think, too, right?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure. So. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Newcastle thought that they sent them down by taking their best striker, and Burnley ended up signing a better player. Yeah. So I mean, that was great. I saw Burnley wanting so many players, but I don't think they ended up signing anyone else, did they? They wanted Ramsey and Origi, I think, but
they wanted players, but they just secured Weghorst. But
look, I mean, it depends. It's a weird one because Watford are there too, and Norwich. Norwich have looked better recently. It's gonna be a very nice relegation battle. I think in terms of for the neutrals. I think
Because Dean Smith
mean,
has Norwich playing
yeah.
fairly decently, right? And
Yeah.
when you
I
really
mean,
look at
yeah.
like
Go on,
Watford
go on.
with what they've done with their manager is not good. And
Yeah.
and of course, their transfer window isn't great, but when you've got that kind of upheaval with, Ranieri leaving after 3 months, and basically having Roy Hodgson, who I know is an experienced Premier League manager, but the poor guy just needs to retire and be done. Like I think you're giving him a sinking ship. And so when I start looking down that list and I'm starting to think, look, Newcastle, you've got quality. As much as I maybe don't rate all of the targets, they've surely got too much quality there to not be drawn in. They've got goal scoring potential. You've got Burnley, who for me, they've got a better striker now, but can Burnley do the Burnley thing and escape relegation? That's a question for the ages. I hope they don't, because I don't like their
Yeah,
club.
same. Yeah. Yeah.
But and then again, I'm sorry, but like Everton fans, like I'm not hating on you, but I don't know how you don't escape being drawn in with Lampard. The effect for me is I see them losing a lot more games being open. I don't know if that was the problem with Benitez for Everton being more progressive. I
Yeah,
don't know if
Benitez
that
was
was the
very,
issue.
they were very conservative generally.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I mean, like I think the one game that they pressed high was against us, and it ended
Yeah.
up
Doing
going well
well.
for them. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like their only win in ages.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. One team. I mean, it's not relegation battle theme, but one team that I want to talk about because I saw people talking about in the comments. I'm not sure if you talked about this yesterday, but Villa. I'm not. I mean, I don't think they had as good a window as everyone is talking about. To be honest.
No, I agree. It's
Yeah.
it's a tough one. Like why don't you go, man? Like what did you think of the window generally?
Look, I think Gerrard is trying to figure out how he wants to play because like I've watched most of his games so far for Villa, and I think there's an issue is that he doesn't really want to know how to balance his front line because at times he's played like two number 10s behind Danny Ings or Watkins. At times he's played Watkins and wings, split striker with Buendia as a false nine. He's done a lot of things. So I'm not sure how. So with Coutinho, I think he's trending more towards the dual 10s behind the striker, I think. But I'm not sure how. I'm not sure what Coutinho is going to bring at this point because physically it looks poor, like he can't really run at this point. He will give you a moment of quality, but I'm not sure. I mean, he's better than Ashley Young, who Gerrard used as a winger once. So yeah, he's definitely better. But yeah, and then I think their main issue was midfield, to be honest, and because they like outside of Nakamba, who doesn't really play for them a lot, they don't really have a number 6. Luis struggles to protect transition. And yeah, I don't know. I think Gerrard has some really interesting tactical ideas from the games I've watched, and I think he's going to be a very good coach, and he's going to be a worthy successor of Jurgen Klopp someday at Liverpool. Definitely. I mean,
you can see the influences that he does, right? Like in his team,
it's very similar.
Yeah, and it's almost exactly prime when he played in his last year with the Coutinho. Like I've always felt with the Coutinho thing, he's hopefully doing a midfield 3 of Jacob Ramsey, McGinn, and Luiz, of just a workhorse type midfield where he hopefully has the Coutinho in off the left of the creativity, and if they get Leon Bailey back as the outlet, so it's not exactly Liverpool, but they switch kind of the dynamic, so where the creative one is on the left and then their outlet is on the right, and maybe they use Ollie Watkins to false 9 come in. And I don't know if that's enough. Like, I don't agree with it, but I agree with you, Nick, where he is struggling frontline wise to find the balance because I don't know if you've got Danny Ings to really be more than an off the ball mover. Like he's in that weird thing where he's not quite an outlet like a Son, but he also isn't quite a number 9, and he works best in a 2. So
definitely.
I struggle to understand exactly what they're doing. I think personally, that's my suggestion. You play Ollie Watkins as a false 9 who comes deep. He likes to do that anyways, and get your Coutinho who's up the pitch. Don't get him in midfield because for me his legs are gone. You got to play him with like a secure 100%. Person on the left, and then Leon Bailey is probably the best complement to that, unless Buendia gets into form.
Yeah, Buendia is their main creator. Like Coutinho, even in his prime, he was never like a volume creator.
No.
Right? He always played in sides where they had someone else to do that. So I think I'm not to be honest, I'm not sure Coutinho is a starter guaranteed for them.
No,
I mean, just because of his name, he's not. I think I still think that their best balanced three is Buendia, Ings, and Watkins, even though it hasn't worked well under Gerrard. But I think
It has to be. There's no other option, really.
Yeah.
I don't trust Bailey
I
in this
mean,
situation
yeah.
either.
Yeah, the other option is like to play dual 10s behind, like Coutinho and Buendia, like Chelsea do, but like not with a 3, with a 4. I mean, it's weird because, in a sense, it's similar because they push their fullbacks really up. I mean, that's what I want to talk about because
it could work
Yeah.
because you have Coutinho drifting left and Buendia drifting right,
Yeah.
and the zones work, I suppose. Sorry.
Like if you watch them, they're extremely compact. Their front three. It's
Yeah.
basically a diamond at this point. Like
Correct, yeah.
there's no. It's not like with Liverpool where Salah is providing width to start off and then drifting. It's extremely compact. I think the main thing with that Gerrard has to find is his fullbacks, because his fullbacks are extremely high up the pitch. It's how people exaggerate. Like they say that Trent and Robertson are not defenders because they play high up the pitch. That's exaggerated. But with Villa, it's exactly that. They play very, very high. Like if you look at
Digne signing, it makes sense.
It's actually impressive because, like, if you look at them from the build-up, you have the two midfielders playing, the number 8s playing as fullbacks, and the fullbacks playing as wingers. It's weird. It's odd to see, but it's interesting cycling nonetheless. But I'm not like they got Digne and Chambers. I don't think either of them work well because Digne has a great delivery, but both of them have a great delivery. Digne more so, but like they're not dynamic enough. Like if you watch Digne against United, when he got in those areas, he was great. Like he put in some great balls, but like he struggled to be. He wasn't quick enough to get on the overlap like a Tierney.
It's why, guys, like I really have this funny feeling he's doing Liverpool 2.0, where he's going to do it on one side, where you're going to have kind of your inverted fullback in Chambers on the right, and then Leon Bailey is their best version of an outlet on the right, and then when you have Digne wide, you can push Coutinho inside. He's not going to hold the width like that. I wonder if he does tweak it to give it just a little bit more balance, and of course that Coutinho could be Buendia as well, because he's also played off the left. But
it wouldn't make more sense to be Buendia though, because if you have Bailey on one side, I mean, I suppose
I think it's just a goal threat, personally, mate. Like I don't believe it totally, but like I think Coutinho has more of that long range effort from goal. And
my worry with this Villa team is I feel like it's very much sort of. I mean, do you remember when they first got Barkley, and it's sort of they had this amazing sort of bounce run, and then sort of the balance just. They never quite worked it out. And it was sort of, it was always a case where, okay, Grealish is on one side, we're going to run it through him and Barkley. If we can get in involved and we can get him in the correct zones, he can affect. And they thought they had this partnership and it didn't really click. I trust Michael Beale to get it together, but I just have this fear that it's too
They
late.
want a new number 6, mate. Like what you can absolutely tell, like a big reason why they kind of coaxed like interest into Douglas Luiz for me is because Douglas Luiz, he is a 6 in a sense. He sees himself higher, but I see him better deeper in the Premier League. But it's only in a tight space midfield. He's got that same issue.
The only reason
of
why
covering.
I don't have him as a 6, I don't feel like he's defensively secure enough.
No, I don't. But I mean, the best way to hide his flaws in the Premier League would be playing deeper, not higher. Like I think he'd be even exposed more higher. So I think they want a different 6 for that system. That's the next big buy that they're going to do.
Should have been Kamara. They should have gone for Kamara.
They still might, Boubacar Kamara is one of those weird ones that everyone loves, as a project signing, but hasn't really signed to a club, and he's still leaving like in 6 months. Like he hasn't committed to a deal.
Like if I'm Gerrard, that's the first call I make. I really, really do feel like
I'll be honest, mate. My biggest thing, if I was Gerrard, I'd get Ibrahima Diallo from Southampton.
Oh, no, that's better. That's way better. Yeah,
he's somebody that I would definitely look at, because you pair that with like Jacob Ramsey, who likes to really drive them forward. And I do like Jacob Ramsey. He's probably everything most people like with Villa.
I really do think they need to revolve that midfield around McGinn, though. I really, really do think that if you have McGinn as an interior in that as an 8 there,
I think McGinn is more of a squad depth thing, mate. Like I'll be honest, like I understood the Basuma link as well. So like when you start to combine those two things, like let's say you get an Ibrahima Diallo as like an anchor, you let Basuma be more of that defensive 8, and you've got Callum Chambers inverted, and then you've also got Leon Bailey, who's your outlet. I think they could do better on the outlet, on that like inverted right wing. I mean, if they were really ambitious and they got Karim Adeyemi, that's like the perfect in theory.
Yeah,
but
correct.
But you start to do maybe those kind of moves, and I still think it's feasible based on what their owners are. The one thing I'll say with Villa, I agree with Nick overall, maybe to tie it so that we don't go circular, but I think their window was not as great as what the fans keep saying, but their owners are so ambitious. And the fact that they've backed Gerrard the way that they've done following a really impressive summer, I think they're one of the better owners in like that top 10 that will at least make the good decisions. Like, I don't mind when it doesn't work, but from the outset, it made sense, a lot of their moves. And that's really the most that you can ask for in a transfer sense, right? Like, you can't guarantee success, but as long as it makes sense and they back their manager, who, by the way, I love Gerrard. I think he's going to be serious manager. So they do that, they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I also loved how he, in the summer when they sold Grealish, like he made that video explaining like that he had a release clause and all that. Yeah, I mean, they're asking the comments about Oba to Barca. Do you want to talk about Barca in general a little bit before we go?
Sure,
Yeah,
The thing is,
they made many interesting signings. Like they
Very
got a whole new,
what
a whole new
do
front
you guys
three.
think the most interesting signing is? I think for me, it's actually Alba. I actually think Alba is the most interesting signing because the space he's going to get in La Liga.
I think it's the short term. I think it's the best signing. I think he's going to be the one that kicks on quickly. Adama Traore to me is a horrible signing in my opinion. I do not.
I don't even know what they're thinking.
Look. Honestly, I like the player more than most. I think he's a very useful player for a mid-table Premier League side. Like Wolves under Nuno, he was perfect because he's a ball progression machine. Mostly carrying, not really passing, but still. With Barcelona, with Xavi, like. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched them too much under Xavi. But as a positional play coach, he wants his wingers to be high and wide in the final third, taking on men. While Adama can take on men, he's probably the best in the world in like completed dribbles per 90. But at the same time, it's misprofiling. He's not that kind of 1-1 winger. He's not the out to in. He's like the back to front type of carrier. Yeah. I mean he's best at carrying the ball, at progressing the ball forwards. He's not like when you look at wingers in a system that they're going to play in the final third, you look for end product. You look at a guy who's going to take on a man, get to his spot, and like cut it back. And then on the other end, you have to go on the cutback and to get on the end of the cutback if you're on the other side. So Adama, like his end product, he has really no goal sense in terms of like moving off the ball and attacking like a Sterling under Pep or even a Pedro, someone like, an off-ball mover. And he doesn't really also have the delivery to be a good 1v1 option down the side. But again, I mean, he's homegrown. It's like a loan, no obligation. I think it's an option. So it's low risk and potentially high reward, I guess. But I'm not.
You know what the weird thing? I've had this weird galaxy brain thing because I'm with you guys. Like, I don't know where he fits. Okay, and when I see Xavi, like I have this weird galaxy brain, and just don't run away, where they force him as some kind of 8 in a sense, and they have Ferran Torres.
I was going to say
where they try to like have him progress play because he's great when he's in. Okay, look, he makes really poor decisions, but the one thing I like about Adama is when he's in the inside channel, he does have a way to progress and go on the outside. He just makes horrible decisions about coming in. So if he can progress up the pitch and then you've got Torres to kind of come inside, maybe that's something to talk about. But really, when I've seen Xavi, he's a very much positional play coach in the Pep mold, and he uses the wingers wide to start width, but they do come inside and they crash, and he hopefully uses the fullbacks for width, but he only uses one or the other. And when you've got Oba and Ferran Torres on both sides now, who in my mind are the wingers, quote unquote, right? I just wonder how Adama fits. I'm with you guys, but I think Barca is a tough one because for me, they've kind of panicked a bit and have been a little bit of opportunity in the market and just do that because again, Oba's a permanent transfer, right, guys? Like Ferran Torres, a permanent transfer. Adama, like you guys said, it's a loan ultimately, and I don't know if they like complete that, but those are 2 permanent transfers for Xavi, which for me, not the ones I would choose, but I mean, I think it speaks to the idea that they're doing a City B-Tech in positional play attempts.
My thing is before I do get onto this point because it is a very good point. My thing is like just I know I talk about zones a lot, but just think about just like I always just close my eyes and think who's the one cutting it in and who's the one finishing it. and neither Aubameyang nor Traore have that as their like. Aubameyang can finish, but I don't see him being the one to drift down and cut. He's not that guy. Adama, God no, he's not someone that's going to cut and finish back post, and he's not going to
Do you guys see
we all
Ferran
see-
Torres though as like a false nine, like in the Gabriel
No,
Jesus
no,
role,
I do.
and like
no.
Dembele right wing?
I do. But it's the only way it works. It's the only way it works. I mean, look, we all like Ferran Torres. I mean, sorry, not Ferran Torres. A whole lot of Liers in the false nine position. But the point is, we have to look at how it would work, just in terms of like how it would go and like zonally.
Because they don't because Ansu Fati's injured. Like I don't know how they fix it. I'll be honest with you. I am struggling in my mind as Ferran Torres, that Gabriel Jesus role with Dembele out wide and Oba out wide, or do they put Oba down the middle and they just have Ferran Torres and Ousmane Dembele outside because he's staying, right? Like
he is staying, yeah.
And I just don't know, like Adama, does he start after all this? Does he start?
No.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to move on to this. Because there's some insane free agents.
Oh, Curran, let me talk about all that because I made this point on Twitter and it kind of blew up. Our good friend Max, who's at Top Bins Talk, who's got an excellent Twitter follow down there. People were asking because I made this point where I felt that not a lot of people are talking about the free agency window, or at least those in the last 18 months of contract. Okay, and this stuff all opens up in the summer window, but here's just a list, guys, of some of the players that are in the last 18 months of contract, okay? Douglas Luiz, of course, at Villa. Basuma, Houssam Aouar, our favorite. Rayan Cherki. Kakaret from Lyon as well. Salah, Firmino, Mane. Gnabry, Sterling, Tielemans, Gravenberch, Jan Oblak, Gabriel Jesus, Marcus Thuram, Evan Ndicka, and Goncalo Guedes. Those are just a pool of players that are in the last 18 months of contract who, for me, there's a lot of deals there, a lot of bargains, a lot of very interesting picks. For you guys, is there anybody that makes you kind of have love eyes in terms of those 18 months? Maybe I'll go to Nick and then Curran first.
Yeah, Bissouma, Aouar. I mean, Salah, obviously, but okay.
Yeah,
a lot of nice players. But to be fair, I think the comment meant about actual free agents, like the ones that are running out.
Oh, like the period free transfers this year?
Kamara, Zakaria, Mazraoui.
Well, Zakaria is going to Juventus now, and obviously
he's going to Juventus.
Zakaria is at Juventus.
The big one is, I feel, obviously, is Mbappe, but we know he's going to Real Madrid. But the thing is, it's going to be interesting to see where a lot of these players running down their contracts ends up. If we're talking Houssam,
Pogba as well. He's a free agent in the summer.
Cavani, Rudiger, who I don't think's committed.
Christensen, Aspilicueta, lots of Chelsea
Christensen is not in this conversation. I don't care what anyone's I don't care what Chelsea fans say. He's not a top 10 defender in the world.
And of course, Dembele, right? He hasn't committed. I don't know. I don't know. And I think Rudiger and Christensen, I think also
don't
Chelsea,
say Christensen. I refuse. Refuse.
I mean, there are a couple free agents, but I'll be honest, guys. I think the most interesting pool is that 18-month contract. Those in the last year, there's a lot more players that I think are really interesting. I mean, look, for Arsenal, Nick, you said it, Houssam Aouar, Basuma. Look, the unthinkable, Jan Oblak, guys, is in the last year of his contract in the summer. Does he stay at Atletico Madrid? Ryan Gravenberch, another Project 8. If people love, Jacob Ramsey and the new Pogba, that's a really young Ajax star that's totally feasible for some of these teams.
How much Chouameni got left?
He's got a couple of years. He's got a big contract.
Yeah, Gnabry.
Serge, I put a poll on purpose because I know when we were pursuing Vlahovic, I said, who would people prefer, Serge Gnabry or Vlahovic? And in the summer, look, guys, we're going to have a bunch of 60 to 70 million pound strikers available, right? And there's two wingers, Raheem Sterling and Serge Gnabry, on maximum 45 million pounds. It asks a question. I'm very interested in things like that. And Serge Gnabry, he hasn't signed, and until he does. That is a very interesting topic on a player who has said he would like to come back before. Does he do it? I don't know. but like
Yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah. So,
I mean, the thing is with this window coming up is, as we said at the beginning of the stream, 800k freed. The whole we're talking about putting the entire transfer budget really to transfer fees. We're not talking about doing both fees and agents, not agents, sorry, wages. We're talking purely on what do you call it, transfer fees, and we've set a precedent with this Vlahovic deal now that if you want to do it, don't piss around with us. We just won't do that. We're not about that life. We're not doing 15 to 18 million euros to any agent fees. It's just not who we are. So at least we've set that precedent, and we're showing that, look, if you want to come to Arsenal, you have to be able to fit in our philosophy and our ethos as a club. And I feel like a lot of people are misunderstanding the difference between being aggressive in the market and being principled in the market. I think you have to have a balance of the two. And if you don't have one, then it doesn't matter how the other one goes.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's a tough one. I mean, like Nick, like what do you make of like that list? Because I know the free agents are everybody loves a free agent. But
I'm looking at the list right now. There's a lot more names that are interesting.
there's tons.
Like,
I only said like a portion of them. But it's crazy the amount of people.
Yeah, there's so much. Like just some of the ones I didn't mention. There's there's Konrad Leimer, Ricardo Pereira, Ruslan Malinovsky from Atalanta, who could be a quality Pepe replacement. Renato Sanchez, Manuel Akanji. I don't know if you rate him. Duvan Zapata. He's a little old, but yeah. Araujo from Barca, the center back. Wilfried Zaha.
He must sign though. Araujo must sign.
He will. Riyad Mahrez, Luke Shaw, Kalidou Koulibaly, Jorginho. There's just so much talent there.
It's crazy. They're all in the last year of their contract in the summer. And I'm just thinking, guys, like, look, Chelsea have a problem. They've got 3 guys, 2 in the freeze in the summer, Christensen, Rudiger. Jorginho is in the last 18 months of contract. Like, I never worry about Chelsea in terms of can they afford transfers, but they've got a lot of people that, are approaching the last year. Liverpool, their whole front line, who knows what's going to happen down there. I think there's a big build that's going to happen in the summer that people aren't quite clocking in yet because
this is
the
another
talent
thing
pool is huge.
Sorry, just quickly. We can do a Saka and a Martinelli extension, I think, quite easily now. I think I didn't really clock that before, but it does free up wages for players to go to that next phase in the rebuild in terms of their contract extensions. And we all know that Saka has an agent that is known to be pretty problematic at times. So I find that to be an encouraging sign. We all know that Gabriel Martinelli loves the club to death. He's the minute he signed his contract, he was like, we're ready to sign another one. I'm good. So he's not someone I'm worried about. But what is it, 2 years after this? And then with the extension option to extend it for 1, isn't it, George?
Yeah.
For Gabriel, yeah. And then, Saka will probably do at the end. I'm sure those guys, they're waiting for what we're doing in Europe. And look, again, our capability in the summer depends on where we finish. And, we all have, I don't want to drag up the top 4 debate again, but I think the big point is when you start to look at a lot of those players that are free, like for you guys, can you guys name your top 3 of interested 18-month contract people that will, by the way, in the summer be like 1 year? Is there anybody that really jumps at the page for you about
choice? You can go first, Nick.
Yeah, you go first, Nick.
I think Serge Gnabry is extremely interesting because he does give a lot of the stuff that we want. Like George, I remember we're talking about how Ousmane Dembele would be interesting because he can take on a man 1v1, he can play both wings, he's 2-footed. Gnabry does all of that and better, so he would be extremely interesting. I don't know. I mean, Aouar obviously would be nice to finally make the dream happen. Yeah, Bissouma would be nice as well. He's a player that I like a lot, but it's pending all his legal troubles. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah. And another interesting one, which we didn't mention, was Gabriel Jesus, who, I mean, I don't rate him as a world-class striker, but I mean, if we strike out on everyone else, he could be an option potentially if he doesn't want to renew with City.
I mean, those probably would be my 3 as well. I do like some of the other names. Kakare is someone I've always enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think I mean, Hussam obviously is the obvious one. I think we one of our earliest videos was a debate on Hussam versus Buendia, and me and George were waxing lyrical about how if we sign Buendia, it's a mistake. And I still think I still think that Hussam has to be heavily considered, heavily considered.
He changed
Yeah.
agencies as well.
He did.
He
He
changed
did
agents
to
also.
Stellar, who holds Kieran Tierney and Rob Holding. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I think, look, when you look at a lot of this stuff, the big thing for me is, do we go big on these winger talents that are, again, superstar winger talents? And I'm talking about Raheem Sterling and Serge Gnabry right now. Like, those are some market opportunities that may be too good to turn down. And, everyone knows my opinions on how desperately we maybe need a striker, which I think has been put forward because of Oba's situation. But there's a lot of players right now, when you look at that list, that you're like, oh, he could do a job. And I think I wanted kind of to end it as, I don't know about names, but just on a general point, this is why we shouldn't have made short-term decisions in January. This is why you cannot pull a Paratici with Kuleveski and Bentancur when you've got that talent pool. You can't tell me that Yves Bissouma is not a better box-to-box than Bentancur, who's available with a year left on his contract in the summer. You cannot tell me that's the case.
I completely agree with that.
You want to go kind of on the wings. Goncalo Guedes, for me, is a lot better to the Premier League than, say, Kuleveski, if you really wanted an outlet. Now, he's more on the left wing, maybe not quite the right wing that they're searching for, but he's an example of, a very versatile forward that's the modern forward. There's a lot you can do. He's having a great season with Valencia. Ultimately, when you look at this pool, there's so many players right now that you're like, oh, he could definitely do a job for so many people. And you don't waste £30 million plus deals in January to eliminate that, because that's what you do, right? In January, if you buy those deals that are squad depth, you can't make use of these 18-month contract guys who I view as depth. There are some there that are total squad players, like, again, Serge Gnabry, Raheem Sterling. There's exceptions, right? But typically, I look at that pool of players, in quotes, as opportunities to address your depth. And that's kind of the point that a lot of technical directors would do. And you eliminate that in January by going after the depth that is overpriced. So I'm just, probably all in all, I wanted to kind of wrap it up where I really felt that Arsenal are so smart.
I just want to make one really, really quick point.
Yeah.
Just before you do. I just want to reiterate, in terms of policy, in terms of players leaving, I just feel like there's a difference between letting players leave and making sure they're out of the club instead of clogging up our wage bill and clogging up our squad in terms of the culture we want to set at the squad. I'd rather have a small squad of players that are playing consistently than a massive squad of players that don't know where they're going to be playing, trying to fight for contracts on massive inflated wage bills. I think that's what Klopp has tried to do.
Yeah,
and Pep as well. Like Pep, I mean, talking about earlier, Pep has 8 defenders, 7 midfielders, and four strikers, whereas we have 7, 7, and 4, and they're playing in the Champions League and the FA Cup as well.
I mean, I was reading the book, Pep Confidential, recently, and it had a quote from Pep that said his ideal squad consists of like 15 or 16 players. I mean, that's probably a little small, but like 16, 17 players that can play each 3 positions except from the goalkeepers, right? So I think that's what I think that's it. Probably Arteta has to be influenced from that.
I would much rather be ruthless and use players than be nice and just have a squad that just is content on staying as it were. It puts pressure on the players that are at the club. It makes sure that the standards are kept high.
It does. Look, at the end of the day, right, lads, like when you have a squad, we had the total opposite effect of what Mikel would want. An overbloated, unwilling, or committed players. That's what he had. And right now, we've got a smaller squad of committed youngsters that he can shape and mold. Youngest squad in the league by a fair margin, and let alone those in the top 6. This team is only going up. But maybe I wanted to ask one last question as a conclusion to each of you. Maybe winners and losers of the transfer market from teams, or you can do players individually if you'd like. And then final thoughts, on what you think this means for Arsenal, since we are a major Arsenal channel going forward. So I'll go, Curran, mate, do you have winners, losers, and your final thoughts? And then I'll go to Nick.
I'm going to start with losers. Manchester United, screw you guys. You've lost this window and you've lost top four. Winners. Villa, maybe. It's tough. There hasn't been a lot of like major winners. I can't say
Yeah.
Newcastle because it's very difficult to see how that squad gels, and I don't know if it keeps them up. I would have to say Villa, but like that, this is the thing. It's very difficult in the moment to think to just I know there's deals I forgot that we haven't even covered. Julian Alvarez to Man City. Like there are deals that we just don't know about yet. I mean, Burnley could be up there, but like Burnley just don't have the central midfield depth that they need. But I would have to say Villa. In terms of individual signings, I love Weghorst. I think that's a great signing for Burnley. I think that's one that will be really interesting for 6 months just to see how he fares, because like it's a signing that like it's a personal project of mine. So I love to see how he does. I don't think they will stay up personally, but it's just interesting to me. But that's me.
Yeah.
Nick, mate, how about you? Winners and losers.
I don't know. I mean, I think I can't off the top of my head. I can't think of a single Premier League team that had a great window. I mean,
Yeah.
you could say Newcastle, but yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know. I mean, Newcastle probably had a good window in terms of their project, but at the same time, I'm not sure if those guys fit very well with what they're trying with relegation
Eddie.
battle.
Yeah.
With like trying to get short-term results. So I think, I mean, you could say they're winners. I guess you could say that, but okay, not major. Everton are losers in my opinion. United are losers. Chelsea are losers because they needed a left wing back badly and they got no one. They're stuck with Alonso for the rest of the season. They couldn't even recall Emerson from that loan. I mean, Lyon had a fun window with like selling Guimaraes and then getting Ndombele on loan and what's that guy named, the French guy?
Favre.
Favre. Yeah, Favre.
I'm butchering the pronunciations,
okay.
but you in the comments, you get that from me. So.
Potentially Barca had a good window, I think you could say, but like it's like 6 out of 10 winners. I didn't see any 8 or 9 out of 10 winner in that window or across Europe. I didn't see a team where I look at their business and said, wow, I mean, they really improved. I mean, only Newcastle, but that was mostly down to an overwhelming lack of quality, not like a great business.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Bruno Guimaraes was impressive, but like now, like from the moment the rumor was started, the price has been increasing like every 2 hours. It's like 2 million are added. It's funny.
The
Initially, it was like
thing is mental.
yeah. It was like 34 million euros. Then it was 40. Now it's 50, rising to 50. It's a bit much. And then I'm sure he was paid big wages. And the 30% sell-on, it's pretty big. Like especially, I mean, I guess they're not planning to sell him because they're loaded, but still, it's a factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I think to end, I know no one wants to hear it, but Juventus have to be the winners of this window. They sold, Gur and Kulusevski to pay for Vlahovic, and then they signed Zakaria on a free and they kept Arthur, who they did
We're too
want.
PL centric. This is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, PL centric. I don't think anybody in the Premier League had a great window, and I'm kind of with Nick there, and Euchre as well. Like I don't think anyone in the Premier League really won, but Juventus are actually my biggest winners in the end. And their squad is way better for it. They've brought their guy that they wanted at a price that they still kind of wanted, and it paid for from Paratisi, who loves to help out his mates. But I think maybe the biggest lunars, guys, I really think it's probably Everton, with the whole Lampard issues that we've discussed with Van de Beek and Ali. And yeah, I don't want to be too hard on United because of the issues surrounding it, but they really have been really poor losers in this window with their forward line already decreased. I mean, one of their biggest things was that output that team carries, and they've really destroyed the output that they had there, and they didn't address any of the weaknesses. So for me, those are the big kind of losers. Overall, look, guys, I think Arsenal right now, they didn't make a mistake, and sometimes that can be just as costly or as beneficial as, you know, making some huge mistake that impacts your summer. I think when you look at the whole of the January transfer window, nothing major really happened beyond Vlahovic. And I think that was the biggest deal on the market. But it was very clear that a lot of clubs, got gazumped or had difficulty completing deals. So I don't think it was an Arsenal-centric problem. This was an entire Premier League problem that really suffered. And I'm very excited for the summer. I do want to end on a positive note. I think Arsenal specifically, again, have freed 5 foreign spots that they could do at this point with Oba gone. They've cleared with all their free transfers and Oba gone permanently, which we know now.
All the leaving, though. I think we'll have more departures in the summer.
We will, but just to start with, as a bare bones, you're going to have 5 foreign spots freed. You're going to have 800K per week to play with. And for Arsenal, that is serious money when we know we're cash rich. We've said it with Vlahovic. Yeah. We've told the world we're cash rich. So for me, it's a very exciting, kind of potential in the summer. I'm glad we didn't make an expensive mistake. I still think it was that 4 out of 10. I think when you average all of ours, I think on BoP here, we basically had maybe a 5 in total of everybody, or a 4.
I think I dragged it up a bit.
A bit, yeah. But, in general, we did struggle this window. I don't worry, though, because I do think that we're quite strong. We needed this break more than any other top 4 side in reality to get everybody fit and everybody back. And so I'm excited, looking forward to kind of February. I think the last thing is we'll do those shout outs. And Nick, do you want to maybe let the people know on Twitter and also where they can find you podcast wise?
Yeah, sure. My ad is on the screen. You can see it. And then, you can also look at my website, footballidealists.com, at footballidealists on Twitter for articles and podcasts and whatever you can find on there. It's good content, I promise.
Perfect. And Curran, mate, where can they find you?
They can find me at Curran BoP. That's it. Make sure you follow other lads too at Priv_Z, at PLCKK, and at the One Willow. They all had to leave, but they are major players, and they are people that I respect highly. So do make sure you give them a follow if you can.
Yeah, and of course myself, you can find me at GeorgeV_AFC, and of course you can follow us at BOP Footy. Thanks, guys, for sticking with us. It's almost 2.5 hours, and we promised a transfer special. Thank you so much for the space. A big thank you to Nick for sticking with us, this long. It's been one of those legacy spaces that we love. Guys in the comments, please like, comments on that push to 1K. Thank you so much for your engagement, everyone sticking with us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the transfer deadline. We'll definitely be back kind of something midweek with maybe a fun video, but leave your comments below about how we can improve. We love the constructive criticism, and thank you guys so much again for your interaction. We say it always, but we really love the fact that you guys keep coming back to our channel. So thank you so much, and we'll probably catch you guys on the next one. So thank you so much, and we'll see you later. Bye now.
Right, bye, guys.